Chapter 1486. On the Twin Peaks, Tao extermination shook the world. Enormous black holes extended, devouring the heavens and destroying the earth. Facing a strong enemy, Ningchen used all of his trump cards. He used the undying demon body to force his way into the black hole and suddenly attacked, breaking Night Chief's throat. Unexpectedly, Night Chief, whose vitality had been destroyed, suddenly came back from the dead and severely injured Knowing Destiny with one palm strike. It was a shocking scene. After Night Chief revived, his face burned with fury. He had never thought that he would suffer such a huge setback at the hands of the person before him. Night Chief's back was still drenched in cold sweat. If not for the 3 live stone, she would have really died at the hands of Marquis Ning. Outside the black hole, Hua Zhongdia looked ahead with a grave expression. At the side, devil chi surged around Ning Chen's body, and he quickly healed his injuries. It didn't take long for Ning Chen's internal injuries to heal. His empty eyes stared ahead as a serious look flashed across his face. Although he didn't know why Night Chief had come back from the dead, he knew very well that this battle wouldn't be easy. He had been able to succeed earlier because Night Chief had not been mentally prepared for his sudden attack. Night Chief would not fall for the same trick twice. The Tao extermination realm is indeed extraordinary. Hua Zhongdia narrowed her eyes and said, "This time, let me do it. You find a chance to attack." Ningchen nodded and flipped his left hand. Instantly, spiritual energy surged between heaven and earth. 8 giant dragons appeared and coiled around the butterfly. "Senior sister, be careful. You must come out before all 8 dragons are destroyed." Ningchen said seriously, "Yes." Butterfly in the flower nodded. Without further delay, she flapped her butterfly wings and flew into the black hole. Inside the black hole, the law of path of destruction surged and destroyed everything. The 8 dragons around Butterfly in the flower were hit by the law of path of destruction and immediately showed signs of collapse. Butterfly in the flower waved her hand. Her water sleeve extended and wrapped around Night Chief in front of her. At the center of the black hole, a murderous intent flashed across Yi Kuei's eyes. He reached out his hand to grab her sleeve and pulled it back abruptly. In an instant, Butterfly in the flower was pulled to the center of the black hole. Night Chief raised his hand and struck out with his palm, causing black air to surge out. At the critical moment, the wings behind Butterfly in the flower shook again. She turned around and dodged the deadly palm power. Soon after, 2 blades appeared. White blade light appeared from her sleeves and slashed towards Yi Kuei's chest. Clang! Night Chief raised his hand to block the sharp edge of the white blade. The absolute suppression of cultivation made it difficult for swords and sabers to injure him. After the white blade was blocked, the black blade followed up. The sharp edge of the blade was extremely oppressive. The divine skill of the saber, the attack was like a tide. The butterfly in the flower took advantage of the divine weapon to overcome the disadvantage of the cultivation level. In the center of the black hole, the saber radiance was crisscrossing. The demonic butterfly's silhouette was constantly changing its position. The saber was moving in the sleeves, its sharpness unpredictable. The most powerful saber god had reappeared after 1,000 years. Back then, he was the saber god of the sabers that everyone in the Central State feared. Today, his dual sabers shocked the world as he fought against the Tao extermination supreme being. Outside the black hole, Ningchen could feel the intense battle going on in the battlefield, and the waves in his heart were hard to conceal. He knew how powerful Senior Sister Dai was better than anyone else. It could be said that among the monstrous geniuses from the inner realm, Senior Sister Dai was definitely one of the best. Sometimes, one could not be envious of one's talent. Boom! In the center of the battle, the saber and the palm collided, and the aftermath shook. The 3 giant dragons around Butterfly in the flower could not withstand the erosion of the law of destruction and collapsed one after another. Butterfly in the flower's expression didn't change at all. She moved in a strange way, relying on the advantage of her speed and her heavenly weapon to fight with all her strength. Amidst the thousands of saber lights, Night Chief was also shocked by demonic Butterfly's continuous attacks. First, there was Marquis, who was invincible in the sword. Now, there was an expert with amazing attainments in the saber. What were the origins of these two people? The dual sabers pierced through the air. With the support of the demonic aura, their power became more and more shocking. In the black hole, the dual sabers displayed their sharpest edge. They did not waste a single opportunity to attack. In the face of the saber god's all-out attack, Night Chief did not dare to be careless even though he had the advantage in cultivation level. Boom! The saber and the palm collided again, and the aftermath roared through the sky. Night Chief flipped his hands, and the undercurrent continued to spread. The law of path extermination increased its power. He wanted to use the suppression of his cultivation level to completely cut off the former's chance of victory. In the battle, more than half of the 8 giant dragons around Butterfly in the flower had collapsed. The remaining 3 were gradually reaching their limits. There was not much time left. Butterfly in the flower's expression turned serious. She held the saber with both hands and the 2 blades merged. Soon after, the saber light flashed. The move of the deification reappeared in the world. Throughout the ages, the only one in 100 generations. A blade in spring and autumn, a beauty that can topple cities. When the saber god made his move, heaven and earth shook. Suddenly, endless saber light soared into the sky, absorbing the saber aura that pervaded the Twin Peaks. It spiraled and surged. In the blink of an eye, it fell rapidly. Within 100 miles, it was as if a divine tribulation had occurred. The saber aura struck, and the black hole rumbled. In the battle, Night Chief's expression turned sluggish, and he used all his demonic aura to block the move. With the all-or-nothing attack, the 3 giant dragons around Butterfly in the flower collapsed. All the demonic aura was poured into this move. Thousands of saber lights fell continuously. After a while, they condensed into one and turned into a 10,000 feet long saber light that slashed toward Night Chief in the black hole. It was a shocking scene. Above the sky, the 10,000 feet long saber light broke through the void and disappeared into the black hole. In the center of the black hole, the law of path extermination surged. As the saber light slashed down, it began to collapse inch by inch. However, the saber god's saber still touched the path of path extermination. Close at hand, the collapsing saber light slashed down. The same destructive power was enough to battle the path of path extermination supremes. Do you think it will be so easy? Night Chief shouted. Black airflow surged around him. He put his hands together and blocked the 10,000 feet long saber light. The saber light and the path of path extermination clashed. Suddenly, the sky changed color on the Twin Peaks, and time and space became chaotic. The demonic butterfly's all-or-nothing saber attack had shocking demonic power. Vaguely, it had touched the barrier of the god domain. The saber god of Zhongzhou had never lost to anyone. Under the shocking saber light, Night Chief groaned. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and he was injured again. Outside the battle, Ningchen saw this and shouted. His figure swept out quickly. In the surging phoenix fire, 2 immortal swords appeared around Ningchen. Terrifying demonic aura surged and could kill gods. Ningchen's figure swept to the front of Night Chief. Immortal slaying and immortal slaying broke through the air and slashed at Night Chief with both swords. How dare you! Night Chief was shocked and furious. He condensed chi in his hands and grabbed the 2 immortal swords. The splattering blood dyed the blade red. Immortal slaying and immortal slaying were blocked. A 3rd immortal sword appeared in Ning Chen's hand. It was peerless and sharp, and it pierced straight into Night Chief's chest. Immortal slaying was powerful. Immortal slaying was powerful. Immortal slaying was full of red light. Immortal slaying was full of changes. Immortal slaying's clothes were stained with the blood of Daluo gods. Immortal slaying penetrated his body. Blood spurted out of Night Chief's mouth. He was in disbelief. The immortal swords filled with demonic chi quickly destroyed the god's vitality. Ningchen clenched his left hand. Immortal slaying flew over and slashed at Night Chief's throat. A blood mark appeared. Retreat. After killing Night Chief, Ningchen didn't hesitate. He pulled out his immortal swords and swept to Hua Zhongdia's side. He took the ladder and flew out of the battle. In just a few breaths, outside the battle, Ning Chen and Hua Zhongye's bodies were dyed red. The law of path obliteration was shocking. Under the two's gazes, Night Chief stood quietly in the center of the black hole. After a while, his head flew up and blood spurted into the sky. Then, a shocking scene happened. Night Chief died in battle. The law of path obliteration in the surrounding area went out of control and immediately became abnormally violent. The law of path obliteration devoured its master. Night Chief's body quickly fell apart. His blood and bones scattered. In an instant, he was completely devoured by the law of path obliteration. The indescribable scene shocked everyone. Even Ning Chen and Hua Zhongye, who were used to killing, felt emotional at this moment. Such a death was indeed a little too miserable. Night Chief died in battle. Below, the remaining Butian army immediately lost their will to fight and quickly retreated. The 9 Firmament Immortal Master and Yu Lian immediately gave the order to pursue. They were determined to destroy all the remaining forces of the Butian army. The reversal of the battle turned into a slaughter. The army was defeated like a landslide. The Butian army suffered heavy casualties. In the void, the 2 people who had just experienced a great battle fell from the sky. They were almost exhausted. On the Twin Peaks, Hua Zhongye looked at the Butian army that was retreating. She said, "How many experts like this are there in Butian Pavilion?" "I'm not sure. But there are definitely more than 3, Ning Chen replied softly. "If that's the case, we have no chance of winning this battle," Hua Zhongye said with a serious expression. 1 path obliteration expert was already enough for them to use all their strength. If Butian Pavilion had more than 3 path obliteration experts, it was almost impossible for them to win this battle. Ning Chen was silent. After a while, he said, "I know." "What's wrong with your eyes?" Hua Zhongye asked again. "It's a long story." Ning Chen told her what had happened in the past few years. He would not hide anything from her. "I see." Hua Zhongye's beautiful and cold eyes flashed with surprise. She said, "If that's the case, then this battle must be fought." "Does Z and the others know that senior sister is here?" Ning Chen asked confusedly. "They know." Hua Zhongye nodded. "They are not as fast as me. So I came first. It's been so many years. I really miss them," Ning Chen sighed. "After this battle, let's stop fighting and wait for them," Hua Zhongye suggested. "After they come, the pressure on you will lessen a lot. In the past few years, their strength has increased a lot. Especially Xia Zi. He's not weaker than me." Ning Chen smiled. "I knew it. As long as they have the chance, they will definitely amaze the world." Those who survived the Battle of Gods were the last fighting force of the inner realm. Whether it was Luo Xingchen or Mu Qianshang, their talents could only be described as monstrous. Sometimes, talent was not something that could be made up for with hard work. He was envious and jealous. While the two were talking, the Ning family's army completely overwhelmed Butian's army in front of the Twin Peaks. Yu Lian, 9 Firmament Immortal Master, and the others returned and respectfully reported. Behind them, a man stood quietly. The sword in her hand was also dyed red. On the peak, Hua Zhongye looked at a man and said, "Follow me." The man's expression froze, but he quickly recovered and followed after him. In front, Ning Chen was confused. Why did senior sister Dai call a man? 1,000 feet away, Hua Zhongye stopped. She looked at the girl and said calmly, "Ah man, you are too weak." Chapter 1487. On the Twin Peaks, Hua Zhongye and Ah Man looked at each other. The atmosphere was heavy. "Ah man, with your talent, you shouldn't be so weak," Hua Zhongye said mercilessly with a cold expression. Ah Man was silent. She did not know how to answer. "Since you chose to follow him, you can't be naive anymore. Only by becoming stronger can you help him," Hua Zhongye said seriously. Not far away, Ning Chen was worried. He did not know what Hua Zhongye wanted to say to Ah Man, but with her personality, she would not hesitate to speak. "Ah Man, look at his eyes," Hua Zhongye said coldly. "Even though he is blind, he is still looking at you. Is it really that hard to change?" Then Hua Zhongye stretched out her hands and said calmly, "My hands have been stained with blood since I met him. Therefore, I cannot understand your difficulties. However, it has been 1,000 years. He has protected you for 1,000 years. It is time for you to grow up. Hearing this, Man's body trembled. Her eyes flashed with confusion. Hua Zhongdia walked up and took the girl's hand. She walked to the top of the mountain and looked ahead. Wild, look at this desolate and cruel world. Resources are scarce. If people want to live, they have to constantly fight. Kindness and naivety are just burdens. Only true experts can live a better life. A man looked at the world ahead and said softly, I want to help him. Then become stronger. Give up on kindness and naivety. Give up on all unnecessary emotions. Hua Zhongdia said coldly. For him, she was willing to fall into the abyss and become a Buddha or a demon. It was just a matter of a thought. However, he no longer needed a benevolent Buddha by his side. Senior sister, please help me. A man turned around and said seriously. Hua Zhongdia nodded. She looked at Ning Chen and said, I will take A man with me. When you fight with Butian Pavilion, we will come back. Ning Chen was surprised and said, Where are we going? I don't know. You don't need to think too much. Just think of a way to deal with Butian Pavilion. Hua Zhongdia said indifferently, Xia Zi and the others should be on their way. Before they arrive, try not to fight with Butian Pavilion. Ning Chen nodded and said, I understand. Let's go. Hua Zhongdia waved her hand and didn't say anything else. She took man and left. On the high peak, Ning Chen's empty eyes looked in the direction where the two of them had left. He frowned slightly. Leaving just like that? At the foot of the Twin Peaks, after the battle, banners were everywhere. The Ning family army had once again achieved a great victory. After the news spread, the world was once again shocked. Marquis Ning won again. What was hard to believe was that Marquis Ning actually won 2 rounds in a row against a colossus like Heaven Mending Pavilion. Inside the Heaven Mending Divine Palace, the atmosphere was abnormally heavy. No one dared to speak. In front of the main hall, the Heaven Mending Pavilion master looked down. After a long time, he walked towards the main hall. A young man who did not enter the enlightened way actually forced my Butian Pavilion into such a difficult situation. I truly feel ashamed. The Heaven Mending Pavilion master walked in the dense mist and coldly said, Where is your pride now? Within the dense mist, the Heaven Mending sect's leaders were silent. No one answered. What are you afraid of? The Heaven Mending Pavilion master said with a cold expression, All the sects in the southeastern territory know that Marquis Ning's army is not scary. As long as we stop that Marquis Ning, the army can be easily defeated. Just one Marquis Ning is enough to make you all so afraid? The scene in the Heaven Mending Divine Palace became the reflection of the entire southeastern territory. On the Twin Peaks, the Ning family army was resting. Ning Chen quietly stood on the high peak, guarding the area. No one dared to offend him. Behind him, Yu Lian and 9 Firmament Immortal Master stood quietly, waiting for orders. Wait! Ning Chen only gave one order and did not say anything else. Yu Lian and 9 Firmament Immortal Master did not understand, but they did not dare to disobey the man in front of them. They quietly waited. Unexpectedly, this wait lasted for 10 years. In these 10 years, Heaven Mending Pavilion continuously sent troops to attack. However, they were defeated by Ning Chen's troops every time. Ever since Heaven Mending Pavilion lost a Dao Extermination Realm expert, Heaven Mending Pavilion did not launch a large-scale counterattack. They seemed to have acknowledged Marquis Ning's existence. In these 10 years, someone under Ning Chen's command broke through to the Empyrean realm again. The powerful heavenly tribulation lit up the entire sky. The Ning family's strength was finally acknowledged by the entire southeastern territory. There were constantly experts who wanted to join them, wanting to become their subordinates. 10 years later, Heaven Mending Pavilion, which had been silent for a long time, once again made a big move. An army of 500,000 gathered together. Heaven Mending Pavilion, whose might shook the southeastern territory, had been invincible for too long. How could they truly tolerate the existence of the Ning family? The two sides started to fight. This time, they fought for 5 whole years. In these 5 years, the two armies had victories and losses. Ningchen covered the Twin Peaks with divine restrictions and formations. Heaven-mending armies suffered a great loss and could not take them down for a long time. The leaders of Heaven-mending army were 10 peerless experts at the peak of the Tao reasoning realm. Heaven-mending pavilion did not send out Tao extermination realm experts again. Even Heaven-mending pavilion could not send out Tao extermination realm experts as they wished. The 10 peerless experts at the peak of the Tao reasoning realm could not be underestimated. Ningchen was not afraid with the help of the divine restrictions. These 5 years were the most difficult 5 years for the Ning family. Their 300,000 army was almost wiped out. In the end, they still beat back Heaven-mending pavilion's army of 500,000. After this battle, Heaven-mending pavilion also suffered great losses. They did not start another war for a long time. The Ning family also took this opportunity to recuperate and recover their strength. In these 15 years, the Ning family army did not even take half a step to the east. No one knew why. 9 Firmament Immortal Master and Yu Lian asked a few times, but they did not get an answer. Every time, Ning Chen's answer was only one word: wait. What he was waiting for, only Ning Chen knew. "Ho, we cannot wait any longer." At night, on the Twin Peaks, Yu Lian stepped forward and said respectfully, "According to the reports of our spies, Heaven-mending pavilion has been recruiting soldiers these past few years. Now they have gathered 1 million people. Next time, Heaven-mending pavilion might send out Tao extermination realm experts. If we continue to wait, we can only sit and wait for death." Ningchen was silent. After a long time, he said, "Wait." "Po." Yu Lian's face revealed an anxious expression. Just as she was about to say something, she was interrupted by Ning Chen. "You can leave. This subordinate will leave now." Yu Lian's mood sank. She turned and left. Under the Twin Peaks, 9 Firmament Immortal Master looked at the person who came and said, "What did Ho say?" "Wait." Yu Lian sighed. Hearing this, 9 Firmament Immortal Master frowned and said, "What exactly is Ho waiting for? Reinforcements?" "I don't know either." Yu Lian replied. On the Twin Peaks, the moon set and the sun rose. Time passed day by day. Ningchen did not leave the Twin Peaks again. They were so slow. Within 1,000 miles of Heaven-mending pavilion, 1 million soldiers gathered. They were mighty and majestic, covering the sky and the sun. In a mysterious hall that was shaped like a horn with Heaven-mending divine palace and muddy heaven divine palace, a middle-aged man in a green and white robe walked out. His terrifying aura was even above Tao extermination realm's Night Chief. "Greetings, revered Rain." In front of the hall, 3 powerhouses at the peak of Tao reasoning half knelt and saluted. "Let's go." Yu Zun opened his mouth and spoke in a calm manner. Immediately he walked forward. The army set out. 1 million people, in unprecedented scale, shocked the world. Under the Twin Peaks, the wind and rain arrived. The atmosphere became abnormally heavy. Ningchen stood on the peak and looked into the distance with his empty eyes. A hint of emotion flashed across his face. Was it still too late? These guys were really unreliable. Ningchen pointed. Sword intent rose around him and spread out endlessly. Suddenly, with the Twin Peaks as the center, within 100,000 miles, streaks of sword light broke through the air and flew into the sky. It was a shocking scene. Billions of swords rose and fell in the sky, forming a sword cloud that covered the 9 heavens. On the peak, Ningchen waved his hand. Billions of swords broke through the air and swept into the distance. Millions of miles away, revered Rain looked at the billions of swords in front of him. Surprise flashed in his eyes. This kid was not bad. Revered Rain raised his hand. The wind and clouds in the 9 heavens changed. Above the sky, dark clouds gathered and heavy rain poured down. In the next moment, a shocking scene occurred. Under the falling rain, billions of swords dissipated and gradually disappeared. Tao extermination reappeared. His cultivation was even deeper and unfathomable. With one move, the winner was decided. On the Twin Peaks, Ningchen sensed something and his expression turned serious. Another strong character had come. "Prepare for battle," Ningchen said calmly. His figure rose into the air and swept towards the sky. Below, Yu Lian and the 9 Heavens' immortal master received the order and led the 500,000 troops to meet the enemy. The difference in numbers could not be made up. However, this was all the military strength of the Ning family. The difference in foundation was clearly shown at this moment. In the void, Ning Chen stood quietly. His empty eyes looked at the middle-aged man walking towards him in the rain. His expression did not change much. "You have guts." In the falling rain, Revered Rain looked at the white-haired young man in front of him and said calmly, "You can defeat Revered Knight, which is enough for you to be on the same level as me. Therefore, I will not hold back in this battle." "Please." Ning Chen opened his mouth and replied. "Please." Revered Rain replied and no longer spoke nonsense. The destructive aura around him spread rapidly. The rain engulfed the entire battle. Under the falling rain, all laws were destroyed. The falling rain was the only law. Sword intent rose around Ning Chen's body. He used all his strength to resist the erosion of the falling rain. In the battle of laws, the falling rain gradually suppressed the sword intent around Ning Chen. The difference in cultivation level could not be made up. Knowing that it was useless to fight for a long time, Ning Chen waved his hand and held his sword. His figure swept out and attacked first. Revered Rain raised his hand and closed 2 fingers on his right hand, blocking the immortal slaying blade. Under the falling rain, Revered Rain was invincible. The immortal slaying blade could not hurt him at all. Close at hand, Ning Chen flipped his palm. Raging waves swept out and counterattacked again. Revered Rain raised his hand and faced it head-on. With a bang, the 2 palms met. A terrifying destructive force spread and directly swallowed the immortal core power around Ning Chen. Under the impact of the Tao of destruction, Ning Chen retreated 100 steps. The corner of his mouth was red. "You should be able to do more than this. Bring out your full strength." Under the falling rain, Revered Rain looked at the young man in front of him and said calmly, "As you wish." Ning Chen raised his hand and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Just as he was about to summon the 3 immortal swords, his body suddenly shook and he looked into the distance. At this moment, in the distant sky, a huge crack appeared. Several figures descended from the sky. Chapter 1488. On the Twin Peaks, heavy rain poured down. Reverend Bu Tianyu led an army of 1,000,000. The unprecedented battle shocked the world. Under the falling rain, Ning Chen blocked the Tao Destroyer alone. The battle was about to begin. Suddenly, the sky above the 9th heaven split open, and 4 figures descended from the sky. Ning Chen looked back, his empty eyes looking at the sky, and a touch of relief appeared on his face. They finally came. "Yo, isn't this the famous Jiming Marquis? Why are you in such a sorry state?" Above the split sky, an annoying voice sounded, mocking him unceremoniously. "It's really him. Jiming, what happened? Did you get beaten to the point of vomiting blood again?" Next to him, another person spoke and echoed, "Don't gloat over my misfortune." Among the 4, the only woman spoke with a smile, "Jiming, do you need help?" Ning Chen smiled and said, "I've been waiting for you for a long time." In the void, Luo Xingchen, Mu Qianshang, Xiazi, and Luofei descended from the sky. Their powerful auras were not below Jiming. After 1,000 years of cultivation, each of them had their own opportunities. The geniuses from the inner realm never lost to others. Under the falling rain, Reverend Yu looked at the 4 people in front of him, and his eyes narrowed slightly. These 4 people were all experts, not referring to their cultivation, but the murderous aura on their bodies. Only those who walked out of blood and bones would have such a strong murderous aura. Beside Luofei, Xiazi stepped out and came to Jiming's side. He looked at the Tao Destroyer in front of him and said calmly, "Very strong, very strong." Ning Chen nodded and said, "Tao Destroyer realm is not easy to fight." "Tao Destroyer realm? Jiming, your ability to cause trouble is really getting better and better." Mu Qianshang also stepped forward with a look of admiration and said, "I can't help it." Ning Chen smiled bitterly. "Our Jiming Marquis' attitude today seems a little different from before. It's really not something I'm used to." Luo Xingchen stepped forward and said with a fake smile. I have a request. Mu Qianshang replied. I see. Luo Xingchen suddenly realized, Jiming, is that so? Ning Chen clenched the Tao Destroyer sword in his hand and resisted the urge to step forward and look at the sword. He smiled and said, I ask my friends to help me. Sure. Luo Xingchen nodded with satisfaction and said, You still owe me a magic treasure, remember? I remember. Ning Chen nodded. Do you know what to do now? Luo Xingchen smiled. Ning Chen suppressed the surging true qi in his body and said with a smile. Everyone, thanks for your help. Once the conditions were settled, Luo Xingchen's attitude immediately changed. Mu Qianshang looked disdainfully at the two people beside him and said, The two of you are really the disgrace of the inner realm. As the rain fell, revered Rain watched the people in front of him bicker. However, his expression did not show the slightest bit of carelessness. I'll go first. Among the four, Xia Zi said calmly as he dashed out and started the battle. The frenzy of doomsday reappeared. Demonic energy surged, and killing intent was fully revealed. Revered Yu raised his hand to block the demonic sword. His eyes narrowed. What a shocking devil qi. It was more terrifying than any devil qi he had ever seen. It was not the realm, but the purity of the devil qi. Where did these people come from? Behind him, Luo Xingchen, Mu Qianshang and the rest saw Xia Zi making a move. They calmed down and their expressions turned serious. In the rain, Xia Zi and revered Rain fought fiercely. The Tao Annihilation Realm displayed an unshakable might. The demonic sword was shocking. Each strike could destroy the heavens and the earth. However, the existence of the Tao Annihilation Realm was above the laws. It was immeasurable. After 10 moves, revered Rain remained unmoved as he blocked the demonic sword. Outside the battle, Luo Xingchen, Mu Qianshang and Luo Fei looked at the battle with solemn expressions. Was this the Tao Annihilation Realm? It was indeed powerful. I'll go up and help, Mu Qianshang said. His figure dashed out like a stream of light. The snow sword was unsheathed and the mountain river ink realm spread out. A unique sword Tao. The sword opened the ink realm. The black mountain and white water transformed into a supreme sword intent. Boom! The palm and sword clashed. In the mountain river ink realm, the mountains and rivers shifted. The rumbling continued as a mountain fell and smashed towards revered Rain. A violent impact sounded. Revered Rain raised his hand to block the black mountain river ink. He frowned slightly. After a round of attack and defense, revered Rain condensed in his hands. The Tao Annihilation Realm aura spread out. The mountains collapsed and the water scattered. The ink realm collapsed instantly. In the battle, Xia Zi and Mu Qianshang retreated, avoiding revered Rain's attack. At this moment, outside the battle, a green arrow pierced through the sky. It was an extremely exquisite timing. It showed the tacit understanding of 1,000 years. The green arrow brushed past the two and broke into revered Rain's heart. Revered Rain frowned again. He raised his hand to block the arrow. Outside the battle, Luo Xingchen put down the star scar bow in his hand. He narrowed his eyes and said, Did you fail? No, you succeeded. Revered Rain's expression sank. On his left hand, drops of blood dripped down. It was so dazzling. What I mean is, if we didn't shoot you to death, it means we failed. Luo Xingchen said lightly. On the side, Ning Chen was full of admiration. This kid's mouth was still so poisonous, whether it was to friends or enemies. Ji Ming, is this also your first time facing a Tao Annihilation Realm expert? Luo Fei asked. No. Ning Chen shook his head and said, I met one before. Do you have any way to deal with the enemy? Luo Fei asked softly. We can't fight head-on. Ning Chen replied. What kind of method is that? On the side, Luo Xingchen sneered, We have fought for so many years. When have we ever fought head-on? He really wanted to fight head-on. But every opponent he met was abnormally strong. Don't quarrel. I will fight for an opportunity for you. Ji Ming, Luo Xingchen, you two are the fastest. Pay attention to the timing. As her voice fell, Luo Fei raised her hand. The moonlight around her was dazzling. She released all of her spiritual energy. The moon rolled up the sky, and a divine aura spread out. Ningchen felt it and revealed a strange expression. Such a powerful divine aura. This aura seemed to be somewhat similar to the moon god. If he guessed correctly, Luo Fei's heaven awakening should be the moon god's personal help. Outside the battle, Luo Fei made her move. Her divine aura spread out. The world suddenly stagnated, and everything dimmed. The wind did not move, the flowers did not smell, and the birds did not chirp. The world seemed dead. Moonlight filled the air. In the void, the falling rain stopped. Even revered Rain's body came to a standstill. In the blink of an eye, Luo Xingchen drew his bow and shot an arrow. The blue arrow light surged out like thunder, shooting towards revered Rain's chest once more. The arrow light cut through the curtain of rain, arriving in front of revered Rain. Its terrifying power was earth-shattering. However, just as the arrow light approached, revered Rain suddenly raised his hand, breaking the still world order and blocking the arrow light. The Tao extermination realm was unfathomably deep. How could it be so easy to kill? After the arrow, the immortal execution sword light arrived at the same time. Its peerless edge was dazzling. Ningchen was well aware of the might of the Tao extermination realm. He didn't expect Luo Xingchen's arrow to be able to severely wound revered Rain. His phoenix essence was pushed to the limit, and his speed was fully unleashed. Bang! After the blue arrow light, the sword light broke through the Tao extermination laws around revered Rain and stabbed towards his chest. An incomparably powerful strength shook the heavens and the earth. Revered Rain's expression changed. Without hesitation, he reached out and grabbed the sword edge. Chila! The sword edge cut through the blood and bone, giving off an ear-piercing sound of friction. The immortal execution sword advanced inch by inch, bringing out a waterfall of dazzling blood. Revered Rain's right hand was bleeding continuously. In front of his chest, the immortal execution sword had penetrated an inch. As the sword edge entered his body, Revered Rain groaned and took half a step back. The moment Revered Rain retreated, outside the battle, two sword lights broke through the air. Mu Qianshang and Xia Zi joined forces. The two swords were like lightning, mercilessly pressing forward. After 1,000 years, the three swords joined forces again. Even gods and ghosts were frightened. Revered Rain's expression changed again. With a deep roar, the Tao extermination aura around him erupted and forced the three to retreat. 10 steps away, Ningchen and the other two stopped. The blood did not stop, and the sword did not stop. In the blink of an eye, the three figures swept out again. Their swords were extremely fast, each sword knowing their fate. Revered Rain endured the injuries on his body. He raised his hand to block the sword and retreated step by step. He was actually at a disadvantage. Outside the battle, Luo Xingchen's star mark bow was fully drawn. Seeing the opportunity, the blue arrow light broke through the air again. Inside the battle, the three understood tacitly and avoided the arrow light. Ugh! Under the pressure of the three swords, Revered Rain did not have enough time to recover. The blue arrow light suddenly pierced through his body. Blood splattered and dyed the falling rain red. Revered Rain staggered back and barely managed to stabilize his body. In front of him, the attack came again. The sharp sword attacks were endless. Revered Rain's expression became more and more serious. His heart sank. He decided to go all out and counterattack. In the void, heavy rain poured down. Just as the Tao extermination was about to erupt, outside the battle, the moonlight was dazzling. Lu Fei activated the Scroll of Moon and used all her strength to stop Revered Rain's counterattack. In a short moment, Revered Rain's aura stagnated and his body stopped. In front, Ningchen's figure was the first to sweep past. The immortal extermination sword's sharpness shone brightly as it pierced Revered Rain's chest. Ugh! Blood spurted out, fogging up the heavy rain. Revered Rain's expression became ferocious as he raised his hand to slap the person in front of him. At this moment, Mad Doomsday arrived and cut off Revered Rain's right arm. Ah! A shrill cry resounded through the sky. Revered Rain's right arm flew down, shocking the millions of troops below. Two swords joined forces, followed by a third sword. The mountain ink painting spread out. The snow sword condensed the power of the ink realm and pierced into revered Rain's forehead. The deadly sword destroyed revered Rain's life force. Before his 3 souls could escape, they were crushed by the sword intent. Revered Rain's eyes quickly dimmed. His figure fell from the sky and smashed into the ground. In the battle, Mu Qianshang waved his hand and sheathed his sword. Dao extermination, it's no big deal. Outside the battle, Luo Xingchen also put away his star scar bow and said indifferently, "Next time, you can try fighting on your own." Ning Chen said unceremoniously, "Yo, Ji Ming, I just helped you and you're speaking so harshly again." Luo Xingchen said with a fake smile, "I don't dare. Thank you for your help." Ning Chen bowed respectfully to Luo Xingchen and thanked him. Seeing this, Luo Xingchen hurriedly dodged and said, "Don't bow to me. I don't want to die yet." "Alright, stop fooling around." Luo Fei looked at the 2 people in front and said unhappily, "They're still fighting below. Aren't you going to help?" Ning Chen's empty eyes looked below and said, "No need. We've done what we should do. The rest is up to them. I believe they can get through this." Below, the 2 armies clashed. Blood and bones formed mountains. Blood flowed down the rain and dyed the mountain peak red. It was extremely desolate. A calamity caused all living beings to cry. Chapter 1489. In front of the Twin Peaks, the flames of war spread for thousands of miles. The Ning family army faced the million-strong army of Heaven Mending Pavilion. Although they had less than half of the enemy's forces, they still managed to block the attack of the million-strong army. On the Twin Peaks, 5 figures stood quietly. The leader was a plain-clothed man with a head of white hair. His eyes were empty, without a trace of light. "Ji Ming, do you really not need help?" Luo Fei asked again. "No need." Ning Chen shook his head and said calmly, "There has always been a rumor in the southeastern territory that the Ning family army's greatest reliance is Marquis Ning. As long as we stop Marquis Ning, the Ning family army is nothing to worry about. Now, it's time for them to prove themselves. Aren't you afraid that these people will die in this battle?" Luo Xingchen asked solemnly. "Living is luck, dying is fate." Ning Chen replied coldly, showing the coldest side of his character. If these people could not even overcome this difficulty, how could they follow him to take down the entire merciless heaven? He had done what he should do, so they should do the same. Behind them, Luo Fei glanced at Xia Zi beside her. A trace of helplessness flashed in her eyes. Ji Ming's character was so cold that no one could persuade him. Xia Zi was silent and did not say a word. In a world where the strong ruled, the weak did not have the right to live. Although it was cruel, this was the truth. On the side, Luo Xingchen walked forward and sat down in front of the cliff. He looked at the bloody battlefield in front of him. His expression was surprisingly calm. "Ji Ming, when do you think we can stop?" Luo Xingchen asked with a smile. "Why, are you tired?" Ning Chen asked softly. "That's not it." Luo Xingchen smiled and said, "Life is about tossing and turning. How can I be tired? Otherwise, these long years would be boring to death. I just feel that we haven't had a good drink together for a long time. When I take down the entire merciless heaven, I will invite Brother Xingchen to a good drink." Ning Chen smiled. "It's a promise." Luo Xingchen raised his hand and said, "It's a promise." Ning Chen clapped his hands and said. Behind them, Mu Qianshang listened to the 2's unreliable words and did not say anything. He said, "You too, can you bring me along?" "Of course." Ning Chen smiled. "There's also Zi and Lu. For you to come all the way here, this knowing destiny deeply apologizes. I will definitely entertain all of you with the best wine in merciless heaven. I'll remember it." Xia Zi stepped forward and stood in front of the cliff, saying calmly, "We'll help you." "Ji Ming, where is the butterfly in the flower? Why don't I see her? She should have arrived earlier than us." Luo Fei also stepped forward and asked the question in her heart. "Senior Sister Dai left with a man. I don't know where they went." Ning Chen said helplessly, "A man was taken away by that demoness?" Hearing this, Luo Xingchen couldn't help but be speechless. With a strange expression, he said, "You're really not worried. Aren't you afraid that the demoness, butterfly in the flowers, will sell your little wife?" "Don't talk nonsense," Ning Chen said helplessly. "Senior sister Dai definitely has her good intentions for taking a man away." "Only you would think so." Luo Xingchen curled his lips. He had long heard of the notoriety of the butterfly in the flower when he was in the inner realm. She was a master who feared nothing. Back then she had offended all the great sects in the central state and everyone wished to kill her. Behind Ning Chen, Mu Qianshang stepped forward and patted the shoulder of the person in front of him. He said meaningfully, "It's not easy." Ning Chen had a baffled look on his face. Was there something wrong with these guys' heads? Besides Xiazi, Luo Fei covered her mouth and chuckled. There was no doubt that Ji Ming was intelligent. But in terms of feelings, even after 1,000 years, there was not much change. Expecting a blockhead to be enlightened was really asking for too much. Thinking of this, Luo Fei looked at the man beside her and couldn't help but sigh. There was still one more. After sighing for a moment, Luo Fei came back to her senses and turned to ask, "Ji Ming, have you found a cure for your eyes?" "I found it." Ning Chen nodded and said, "In the Heaven-Mending Pavilion's heavenly temple, there is a stalk of 3 soul grass. If I obtain it, my eyes will recover." In front of the cliff, Mu Qianshang and Luo Xingchen, who were sitting, immediately became alert when they heard this. Why did they have a bad premonition? Two good friends. Ning Chen looked at the two in front of him and said with a smile, "Are you interested in going to Heaven-Mending Pavilion to steal the 3 soul grass?" "Not interested." Luo Xingchen and Mu Qianshang looked at each other and shook their heads in unison, rejecting. What kind of joke was this? A Dao extermination realm expert was already so difficult to deal with. Heaven-Mending Pavilion had countless experts stronger than revered Rain. If they went over, they would be courting death. "I have a perfect plan." Ning Chen smiled and said, "Everything is ready except for the east wind. Now that 2 good friends are here, I dare to give it a try." "But Xia Zi and Luo Fei can do it too." Luo Xingchen hurriedly rejected. He still understood the principle of sacrificing a fellow Taoist but not himself. Zi and Luo Fei are not suitable. Ning Chen smiled and said, "For this matter, without Brother Xingchen, it would be difficult to succeed. And Brother Mu, the 2 of you are the best candidates." Hearing this, Luo Xingchen's expression changed again and again. On the side, Luo Fei chuckled and said, "Ji Ming, Luo Xingchen is afraid. If it really doesn't work, Zi and I will go." "Bah!" Hearing this, Luo Xingchen jumped up as if someone stepped on his tail and said, "Who's afraid? Let's go." "Mu Qianshang, what about you? Do you dare?" "Why wouldn't I dare?" Mu Qianshang stood up and said indifferently, "If we can't win, we can just run." Ning Chen gave him a thumbs up and expressed his approval. As expected of an expert from the inner realm. He did not have the arrogance of an expert. As long as they could survive, that bit of arrogance was nothing. While the 5 were talking, in front of the Twin Peaks, the battle between the 2 armies had reached its climax. After Ji Ming and the others killed revered Rain, the Ning family army's morale was greatly boosted. Their battle strength had multiplied and gradually suppressed the Heaven-Mending Pavilion's million-strong army. After decades of bloody battles, the Ning family army had also grown rapidly. Under everyone's gaze, they were gradually not inferior to the Heaven-Mending Pavilion. The 2 words, Marquis Ning, were too dazzling. That was why people ignored the growth of the Ning family army. However, how could a person never be defeated? For Ning Chen to be able to walk until today, the Ning family army had contributed a lot. Wherever the Ning family flag passed, they were truly invincible. When the sun set in the west, the battle between the 2 armies was nearing its end. The remaining Heaven-Mending army retreated in defeat. Night fell. On the peak, Ning Chen looked at the 2 people beside him and said, "My 2 friends, let's go." "Are you sure?" Luo Xingchen asked again worriedly. "I'm 100% sure," Ning Chen said confidently. "All right, I believe you." Luo Xingchen made up his mind and said, "Let's go." The corner of Ning Chen's mouth curved slightly. The phoenix fire around him rose again as he left with Luo Xingchen and Mu Qiansheng. On the peak, Xia Zi looked at the three's departing figures and said, "Lufei, be careful." Lufei nodded. Her figure flashed as she followed. At the front, Luo Xingchen and Mu Qiansheng did not know that Lufei had also come. Because Ningchen did not say anything, Lufei did not say anything, and Xia Zi did not say anything either. Heaven-mending divine palace. After revered Rain died in battle, the entire divine palace fell into silence. The growth of the Ning family army was beyond imagination. For the first time, the heaven-mending sovereigns felt a real threat. If Night Chief's fall could be explained by underestimating the enemy, then revered Rain's death was no longer an excuse for them. That Marquis Ning's existence had truly become a sharp sword hanging over their heads. Night Chief and revered Rain died in battle one after another. Heaven-mending Pavilion's vitality was greatly damaged. What the heaven-mending sovereigns did not expect was that the Marquis Ning that they feared had personally come. Under the night sky, three figures flashed across the void and headed towards the muddy Heaven Divine Palace. "Ji Ming, is the news reliable?" Luo Xingchen asked worriedly. They had taken such a huge risk to come here. If the news was false, it would be a huge loss for them. "Of course it's reliable," Ningchen replied. "I got this information from a heaven-mending elder. You should know what kind of background I have. I may not be good at other things, but when it comes to extorting information, if I am second, who in the world dares to be first?" When Luo Xingchen heard this, he did not know why he was speechless. What an arrogant tone. However, he was actually a little envious. In front of Heaven-mending Pavilion, guards were walking back and forth. Ning Chen and the other two passed by without alerting a single guard. If a fifth realm expert wanted to hide his presence, there were very few people in the world who could detect him. Moreover, Ning Chen was proficient in the law of space and was even more proficient in hiding himself. The three passed through the layers of guards and arrived at the center of Heaven-mending Pavilion. Looking at the three most majestic halls in front of them, they temporarily stopped. "Which one is the muddy Heaven Divine Palace?" Mu Qiansheng asked. "The one on the right." Ningchen replied. "Yes." When Luo Xingchen heard this, his expression turned serious. It was really a bad choice. The divine palace on the right vaguely gave off an indescribably terrifying pressure. It was many times stronger than revered Rain from before. One could imagine how powerful a Dao annihilation expert was in the muddy Heaven Divine Palace. Ningchen raised his hand and a strange light rose around the three of them, completely concealing their presence. The divine restriction was activated and the space-time distorted. The three of them disappeared into thin air. "Let's go!" In the distorted space-time, Ningchen led the two behind him and rushed towards the muddy Heaven Divine Palace on the right. There were not many guards in front of the muddy Heaven Divine Palace. However, the muddy Heaven Divine Palace that was guarded by Heaven-mending Xian Venerate had always been a forbidden area of Heaven-mending Pavilion. No one dared to take half a step in. Tonight, Ji Ming and the other two explored the muddy Heaven Divine Palace at night. Their audacious actions shocked the world. The three of them avoided the layers of guards and rushed into the Divine Palace. They directly rushed towards the deepest part of the Divine Palace. The divine restriction blocked their presence. Ningchen led the two of them to search for the whereabouts of the three soul grass. He did not dare to be careless for a moment. They knew that in this muddy Heaven Divine Palace, they could be discovered at any time. They could not stay for too long. Found it. In front of an inconspicuous medicine pavilion, Ningchen opened one of the medicine boxes. He was shocked when he saw a stalk of great medicine. He transmitted his voice to the two of them. Not far away, Luo Xingchen and Mu Qiansheng were shocked. "So easy? 3 distinguished guests, this old man has been waiting for you for a long time." At this moment, an ancient voice sounded in the void. The medicine box in front of Ningchen flew up and flew towards the depths of the muddy Heaven Divine Palace. Chapter 1490. On a cold night, Ningchen, Mu Qiansheng, and Luo Xingchen broke into the temple to search for the 3 soul grass. Just as knowing destiny was about to succeed, A terrifying aura awakened inside the temple and spread out. In front of Ning Chen, the 3 soul grass flew out and flew towards the depths of the temple. Not good. Ning Chen felt it and his expression changed. His figure flashed as he reached for the 3 soul grass. The 3 soul grass is my Butian Pavilion's treasure. We cannot give it to you like this. At this time, from the depths of the temple, a surging palm energy roared out and slammed towards knowing destiny. Ning Chen's expression changed as he turned around to avoid the palm energy. Seeing that the 3 soul grass was about to be lost, a white figure flashed from behind and chased after him. Oh! From the depths of the temple, a soft sound rang out. Then an even more powerful palm energy broke through the air, shocking the world. Mu Qianshang focused and felt the terrifying palm energy. He did not dare to take it head-on and turned around to avoid the incoming palm energy. After a moment of delay, the 3 soul grass once again disappeared and flew forward. I still need to do it myself. Ning Chen and Mu Qianshang were shocked as Luo Xingqian's figure flew out and passed by the two, reaching out to grab the 3 soul grass. At this moment, from the depths of the temple, the 3rd palm energy had already arrived and there was no time to dodge. At the critical moment, Ning Chen's figure flashed forward and held his 2 swords together to block the incoming attack. The shocking palm energy caused the sky to fall. Ning Chen and Luo Xingqian were hit head-on and their mouths were stained with blood. 100 zhang away, Ning Chen and Luo Xingqian stopped and vomited blood. Retreat! With the 3 soul grass in hand, Ning Chen shouted and immediately turned to retreat. Mu Qianshang and Luo Xingqian did not stay any longer and ran as fast as knowing destiny. What a loss! Luo Xingqian looked at the 3 soul grass in his hand and threw it to the former, saying unhappily, "Didn't you say you were 100% confident? You actually believed what he said." Not far away, Mu Qianshang mocked. Ning Chen caught the 3 soul grass and increased his speed, saying, "Let's run for our lives first, you guys talk too much." Mu Qianshang and Luo Xingqian looked at each other and did not say anything else and focused on escaping. "Since you're here, why are you in such a hurry to leave?" Just at this moment, boundless divine might came from the depths of the muddy heaven divine temple. An aura that had been condensed for countless years descended. Mysterious sovereign Butian walked out, and with just 1 step, he arrived before the 3 of them. So close, yet worlds apart. Butian Xian Venerable stood in front of the 3 of them. His face was middle-aged, but the vicissitudes of life in his eyes could not be concealed. He was an existence that had truly lived for countless years. Butian Xian Venerable looked at the 3 people before him without any hostility. Ning Chen, Mu Qianshang, and Luo Xingqian stopped in their tracks, their expressions guarded. This Xian Venerable Butian's aura was not just a little bit stronger than the Rain Venerable. They couldn't beat him. Find a chance to escape. Ning Chen said to the 2 of them through voice transmission. Understood. Mu Qianshang and Luo Xingqian nodded in agreement. Zun Xian glanced at the 3 of them and asked calmly, "Which one is Marquis Ning?" "Senior Lord Xian, I am the Marquis Ning that you mentioned." Ning Chen stepped forward and said respectfully. Zun Xian looked at the person before him and said, "You are not bad." When Ning Chen heard this, a strange look flashed across his face. Even though he was extremely intelligent, he was still confused. The 3 soul grass is the most precious treasure of Butian Pavilion. I cannot give it to you. Please return it to me. Zun Xian looked at the 3 soul grass in the white-haired young man's hand and said. Ning Chen held the 3 soul grass tightly. Without any hesitation, he stuffed it into his mouth and swallowed it. At the side, Luo Xingqian and Mu Qianshang were stunned when they saw this. In front, Zun Xian frowned and said, "The dignified Marquis Ning actually behaves like a child." Ning Chen smiled and said, "Senior Lord Xian, please forgive me. Only the 3 soul grass can cure my eyes. I hope Senior Lord Xian will not be calculative with a junior like me." Zun Xian frowned again and said, "Forget it. I can give you the 3 soul grass." "Thank you, Senior Lord Xian." Ning Chen immediately bowed again. Not far away, the 2 of them listened to the conversation between Ning Chen and Butian Xian Venerable. Their expressions became strange. This seemed to be different from what they had imagined. Why were the two of them chatting? All these years, Marquis Ning, you have been fighting everywhere just for this 3 soul grass? Zun Xian asked in confusion. That's not it. Ning Chen smiled and shook his head. I said before that I want the Ning battle flag to fill the entire desireless heaven. I was not joking. Zun Xian was surprised when he heard this and said, Marquis Ning's ambition is really extraordinary. As the two of them were talking, powerful auras rushed over from the Butian Divine Palace in the distance. Murderous intent was obvious. In front of the muddy Heaven Divine Palace, Ning Chen sensed something and lamented, Looks like I have to leave. Zun Xian looked into the distance and said, I have to do my duty as well. With that, Zun Xian raised his hand. Above the 9 heavens, dark clouds rolled wildly and covered the cold moon. Ning Chen, Luo Xingchen, and Mu Qianshang saw this and turned to flee without saying a word. Zun Xian pressed his right hand down. Instantly, the entire sky changed. The void darkened and a terrifying pressure descended from the sky. Boom! The sky shook violently. Where the 3 of them were, the void was shattered. The terrifying pressure was indescribable. 100 miles away, Phoenix fire gathered. The 3 of them walked out of the Phoenix fire and quickly left without stopping. Zun Xian looked at the 3 of them and did not chase after them. Greetings, Zun Xian. Just as the 3 of them left, 6 figures with powerful auras appeared in front of the muddy Heaven Divine Palace and bowed respectfully. You may leave. Zun Xian said lightly. Yes. The 6 of them bowed respectfully. At the Twin Peaks, when the sky was about to brighten, 3 figures appeared. Their bodies were dyed red and they looked extremely miserable. On the peak, Xia Zi and Luo Fei, who were waiting, immediately went forward. How was it? Luo Fei asked with concern. We got it. Luo Xingchen gasped and said, That scared me to death. I almost couldn't make it back. Xia Zi frowned and said, Butian Pavilion is that strong? They are stronger than we imagined. Mu Qianshang said in a deep voice, Just the Zun Xian from the muddy Heaven Divine Palace is not someone we can fight. If not for Zun Xian's Phoenix secret technique, we might not have been able to make it back. Xia Zi and Luo Fei's hearts sank when they heard this. Boom! Just as Mu Qianshang finished speaking, a terrifying aura suddenly shot up from the Twin Peaks. It was earth-shattering. The 4 of them felt it and their expressions changed. At this moment, Ning Chen, who had not spoken, suddenly released a dazzling divine light that lit up the entire southeast territory. Within the Butian Pavilion, all the experts, including the Butian Pavilion Master and Zun Xian, looked at the Twin Peaks with shock. Divine! On the Twin Peaks, Ning Chen's 3 spiritual souls were restored. He slowly opened his eyes and a divine ring appeared behind him. It was dazzling. Chapter 1491. On the Twin Peaks, Ji Ming retrieved the 3-soul herb. His 3 injured souls were healed, and his immortal, god and demon bodies were all restored. Ning Chen opened his eyes, and an indescribable surge of divine power shot into the sky, illuminating desireless heaven. For a time, several of the world's most powerful cultivators from all over merciless heaven looked at the southeastern territory with strange looks on their faces. God. After tens of thousands of years, another god finally appeared in the world. On the Twin Peaks, Ning Chen's body was surrounded by dazzling divine light, illuminating an area of 1,000,000 miles as bright as day. In front of him, Luo Xingchen, Xia Zi, and the others looked at the divine halo behind Ji Ming, their eyes wide open. Ji Ming had become a god? They had seen such a divine halo on the moon goddess and the rising sun goddess. It was said that this was not something that could be achieved through cultivation, but a proof of the great path. They had all seen the power of the rising sun goddess, who was not inferior to the path destroyer. The root of this was the identity of this god. Under everyone's gaze, Ning Chen's body began to change. The immortal, god and demon bodies were transformed, and their power rose and merged in the sky. In an instant, above the void, a huge stone door appeared. It was ancient and solemn, full of the aura of time. In a mysterious space, a mysterious stone door. In front of the stone door, a white-haired figure in plain clothes appeared. He looked at the stone door in front of him with a strange expression. After standing for a moment, Ningchen pushed the stone door open. Suddenly, there was a rumbling sound. The stone door that had been sealed for thousands of years opened, and the aura of time rushed out. Inside the stone door, there was a dazzling brilliance. In the brilliance, a majestic figure stood quietly with his hands behind his back. Although it was only a back view, it had a majestic aura. Seeing this familiar figure again, Ningchen's eyes narrowed slightly, and he could not suppress the waves in his heart. The Lord of the Eastern Deity Realm. You have finally come to this day. In the dazzling brilliance, the voice of the Lord of the Eastern Deity Realm echoed. Do you feel tired all the way here? No, Ningchen shook his head and replied. Yes, no, the Lord of the Eastern Deity Realm murmured. The East Immortal World murmured softly, why bother fighting for the sake of your beliefs? Why is the Lord of the Eastern Deity here? Ningchen asked the question in his heart, and he was puzzled. According to legend, the master of the Eastern Immortal World had already fallen during the ancient times, and for the sake of protecting all living beings in the world, he alone endured the calamity of the heavens and the earth. He did not know if the legend was true or not, but the Lord of the Eastern Celestial Realm should have really fallen. Waiting for someone, the Lord of the Eastern Celestial Realm replied. When Ningchen heard this, he frowned and asked, Who? I don't know yet. The Lord of the Eastern Deity Realm said softly. Ningchen frowned again. He didn't understand what the East Deity Master meant. Keep going. You still have a long way to go. As long as you're alive, there's still hope. As he spoke, the figure of the Master of the Eastern Celestial Realm inside the stone gate gradually dissipated. In the blink of an eye, he had completely disappeared. Ningchen's eyes narrowed, and he was even more puzzled. What did the words of the Eastern Deity Master mean exactly? On the Twin Peaks, an illusory figure appeared and disappeared in an instant. However, in a short moment, Xiazi and the other three felt an incomparably terrifying pressure, and their expressions changed. What on earth happened to Ji Ming? That aura just now was truly terrifying. Boom! At this moment, tens of thousands of lightning bolts fell from the sky and blasted toward Ji Ming below. Under the lightning, Ji Ming's three bodies merged into one, and the divine light was dazzling. Back off! Ningchen opened his mouth and said calmly. In an instant, the lightning in the sky paused for a moment before quickly dissipating. When Luo Xingchen, Xiazi, and the other three saw this scene, their eyes were even more shocked. Too awesome! Luo Xingchen came back to his senses and said with a face full of envy. On the Twin Peaks, the lightning dissipated, and Ningchen's aura gradually returned to normal. Retracting his divine ring, Ningchen looked at the four people in front of him and said with a smile, I've made my friends worry. Bah? Who's worried about you? Luo Xingchen said unhappily, Hurry up and return my treasure. I don't have it now. Ningchen smiled and said, However, Butian Pavilion has many. I can accompany you to snatch them. Do you think I'm stupid? Luo Xingchen pointed at himself with a look of disdain and said, I don't want to die with you. It's too late. Ningchen smiled and said, I've decided to fight with Butian Pavilion. As soon as his words fell, the four people's expressions changed. So fast? Knowing Destiny's state, isn't it too fast? Luo Fei advised, Butian Pavilion's foundation is not something we can contend with, especially those hidden Dao obliteration forces. We don't have a good way to deal with them. You can fight against Dao obliteration? At the side, Xiazi did not say much and asked directly. Ningchen nodded and replied. When Xiazi heard this, he did not ask any more and said, All right, if that's the case, then let's fight. You two are crazy. Luo Xingchen heard their conversation and found it hard to understand. Are these two not afraid of death? Yu Lian. Ningchen opened his mouth and called out. Po! On the mountain peak, Yu Lian's figure appeared out of thin air and knelt down. Prepare for the fight. Ningchen said calmly. When Yu Lian heard this, her body trembled and she immediately replied respectfully, Yes. Friends, do we have any reinforcements? Ning Chen looked at the 4 people in front of him and smiled. Don't think about it for now. Mu Qianshang shook his head and said, Princess Qi and the others are still in seclusion. They won't be able to rush here in a short time. What a pity. Ning Chen sighed softly. 10 days later, in front of the Twin Peaks, the various armies gathered again. The strength that they had accumulated over the years was fully displayed. The army of 600,000 set off in a grandiose manner, preparing for the final battle against Butian Pavilion. Under Ning Chen, there were a total of 23 heavenly venerables. Among them, there was no lack of experts like the 9 Firmament Immortal Lord. Their solid foundation had already surpassed all the major sects in the southeastern territory. However, even so, no one believed that the Ning family army could defeat Butian Pavilion. The reason was simple: Butian Pavilion was too strong. In the southeastern territory, the Ning family army of 600,000 headed east. They cleared all obstacles along the way and no one could stop them. In Butian Pavilion's Butian Divine Palace, the Butian powerhouse's expressions were abnormally heavy. They all saw through Ning Chen's intentions. They had to admit that this Ning Chen was too arrogant. With just that little bit of strength, he wanted to challenge Butian Pavilion's prestige. He was overestimating himself. Prepare for the battle. In the main hall, the Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master indifferently said. Below the hall, more than 10 people saluted together and said respectfully. On the right side of the Butian Divine Palace, in the majestic Muddy Heaven Divine Palace, Sovereign Xian stood quietly in front of the palace. Looking at the army that was approaching from afar, a hint of surprise flashed through his aged eyes. A newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. That young man is not bad. He wanted to see if a miracle would happen. 100 days later, millions of banners appeared in front of Butian Pavilion. The mighty battle formation shocked the entire Wuyu heaven. In front of the 100,000 ancient chariots, Ning Chen's figure descended from the sky. Divine light lingered around his body, and a divine ring appeared behind him. The dazzling divine ring shone brilliantly. Powerful divine might filled the air and shook the heavens and the earth. At the same time, 2 beautiful figures descended from the Ning family army. Mo Dai and Ah Man rushed back. Their astonishing auras were several times stronger than before. The final battle began. The winds and clouds of the 9 heavens changed. Lightning. Ning Chen raised his hand. Above the 9 heavens, tens of thousands of lightning surged and turned into tens of thousands of qilins, crashing into Butian Pavilion below. Chapter 1492. In front of the Heaven-Mending Pavilion, 100,000 ancient war chariots floated up and down. The vast military might shook the heaven and earth. Ning Chen appeared in front of the 600,000-strong Ning family army. He raised his hand and summoned the 9 heavens' profound thunder. 10,000 bolts of lightning surged and turned into qilins one after another. They crazily smashed into the Heaven-Mending Pavilion below. It was a world-shocking scene. 10,000 qilins surged forward and crashed into the great formation above Heaven-Mending Pavilion. Immediately, a shocking sound rang out. The earth around Heaven-Mending Pavilion began to crumble, and the ground caved in 100 zhang. In the void, Ning Chen looked down calmly without any ripples in his expression. It's only been a few days since we last met, and you've already become so powerful. Mysterious Venerate Butian said calmly in front of the Muddy Heaven Divine Palace. Thank you, Senior Xian, for giving me this medicine. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to see again. Ning Chen bowed and said respectfully. Butian Xianzhu nodded. He glanced at the 600,000 soldiers behind the former and said calmly, Is this all you have? A smile appeared on Ning Chen's face as he said, That's right. Please advise me, Lord Xian. Young man, you're not bad. Butian Xian Venerable revealed a look of admiration. Putting aside their differences, this young man was worthy of his admiration. It had already been many years since anyone dared to challenge Heaven-Mending Pavilion's dignity. For this young man to be able to do it to such an extent, it was truly not easy. I'm waiting for you to come to me, Sovereign Xian said calmly. Definitely, Ning Chen said seriously. The conversation between the two of them didn't seem like that of enemies, but more like that of good friends who hadn't seen each other for many years. Although they were on opposite sides, there was still a mutual appreciation between experts. In the void, Ning Chen waved his hand, and the 100,000 soldiers on the war chariots behind him immediately moved. Their long spears were raised to the sky, and the divine light was dazzling. The combined might of the 600,000-strong army was astounding. Above the void, an incomparably surging divine might filled the air, converging into a gigantic divine power vortex. In the next moment, a vortex of divine power descended from the sky and pressed down on heaven-mending pavilion. Form the formation. At this moment, within the heaven-mending divine palace, a dignified figure appeared. Immediately, around the heaven-mending pavilion, tens of thousands of divine generals appeared. They worked together, and their divine might soared into the sky. At the same time, above heaven-mending pavilion, more than 10 heavenly sovereigns appeared out of thin air. They assisted the 100,000 divine generals in resisting the divine tribulation. Boom! The two forces clashed against each other, and the aftermath shook the entire area. All around heaven-mending pavilion, the 100,000 divine generals' mouths all turned red. The formation was attacked again. The symbols were destroyed and collapsed one after another. Kill! Above the horizon, 600,000 Ning family soldiers descended from the sky and launched an all-out attack on the imperishable sect that had existed for countless years. In front of the heaven-mending pavilion, the formation patterns flickered. The heaven-mending army, numbering in the tens of thousands, appeared once again to block the Ning family army. The two armies clashed, and the flames of war spread for 100,000 li. The great battle had just begun, and blood dyed the yellow sand. The 100 great sinners, with Yu Lian at the head, all took the lead and fought a bloody battle. Facing the Ning family army's assault, the endless heaven-mending army was forced to retreat, showing signs of decline. Just when the heaven-mending army found it difficult to resist the attack, 12 figures appeared in front of heaven-mending pavilion. Every single one of them had the aura of the Tao reasoning realm. Their divine might was astonishing. With 12 Empyreans participating in the battle situation immediately showed signs of reversing. It's your turn. In the sky, Ning Chen, who was watching the battle, waved his right hand and gave another order. Behind him, the 20 Empyreans respectfully accepted the order and rushed out to join the battle. 20 heavenly sovereigns joined the battle and took action to stop the 12 heavenly sovereigns from the heaven-mending pavilion. After many years of operation, the Ning family army showed that they were not inferior to the heaven-mending pavilion. Whether it was the battle strength of the army or the number of peak powerhouses, they were not inferior. The truly shocking scene was watched by many. The immortal heaven-mending pavilion had fallen into a bitter battle and was forced to retreat again and again. Within the heaven-mending divine palace, the various heaven-mending giants looked at the battle in the distance with gloomy expressions. The heaven-mending pavilion's conventional battle strength had actually lost to the Ning family. Pavilion Master, we can't wait any longer. One of the heaven-mending giants said in a deep voice. In the divine palace, the heaven-mending pavilion master's eyes flashed with a strange light, and he said, "Let's do it." As soon as he said that, everyone's expression became serious as they respectfully accepted the order. In front of the heaven-mending pavilion, the Ning family army attacked the palaces. Their powerful battle strength quickly destroyed the heaven-mending palace's ability to resist. In the flames of war, hundreds of palaces were destroyed, and smoke rose for thousands of li. The defeated heaven-mending army gradually could not resist the Ning family army's sharpness. The scene of devastation was shocking. In the sky, Ning Chen looked at the scene below. There was no joy on his face. He knew very well that the heaven-mending pavilion's true strength had yet to be revealed. This immortal inheritance had yet to reveal its fangs. Boom! Before he finished his thoughts, the ground below the heaven-mending pavilion suddenly shook violently. Under everyone's shocked gaze, the ground cracked open, and bronze chariots rose up. There were hundreds of them, and each chariot was as big as a small mountain. It was extremely shocking. 800 bronze chariots appeared, shining with divine light. It was as if a ferocious beast had opened its mouth and spewed out divine light. In an instant, the tens of thousands of Ning family army closest to them were turned into ashes, and not even their bones were left behind. In the sky, Ning Chen's expression darkened when he saw that. "It's finally here." Ning Chen waved his hand, and the immortal slaying sword appeared. Just as he was about to attack, he was stopped by Mu Qianshang and the others behind him. "You don't need to do anything. Leave it to us," Mu Qianshang said as he stepped in the air, and his figure swept forward. Behind him, Xia Zi calmly glanced at the man in front of him. Without saying anything, he followed. Below, the 9 firmament immortal master and the 4 green-robed protectors also swept out at the same time, arriving in front of the bronze chariot. Swoosh! At this moment, green arrow lights flew out from the void, sweeping past the heavenly venerables and colliding with the bronze chariots. A rumbling sound rang out as one of the bronze chariots exploded. Debris flew everywhere and scattered all over the sky. Not far away, Mu Qianshang and Xia Zi's figures swept past and flew onto 2 bronze chariots. Dazzling sword lights pierced into the bronze chariots. The origin energy within the bronze chariots was destroyed. The 2 figures flashed and left. A moment later, another explosion rang out as the 2 bronze chariots exploded. Heat waves swept out and instantly engulfed the surrounding divine generals Butian. Everyone worked together, and sword lights swept out, destroying one bronze chariot after another. Explosions rang out one after another, and the flames were dazzling. The 800 bronze chariots were like death gods. While they were nibbling away at the Ning family army, they were also devouring the lives of the divine generals Butian. Boom! Just as the 800 bronze chariots were destroyed one after another, the ground beneath Butian shook again. Death chi overflowed as wooden coffins rose one after another. There were 10 wooden coffins, and each of them exuded an extremely terrifying aura. Half-step Tao Destroyer. Xia Zi and the others felt it and were shocked. 10 half-step Tao Destroyers. Everyone watched as the 10 wooden coffins opened. 10 old men in ancient clothes walked out. Their bodies were withered, but their bodies contained an unparalleled terrifying pressure. "Ah man, it's our turn." Behind Ning Chen, Butterfly in the Flower said calmly and flew forward. Ah man nodded and leaped into the air to follow. "Ah man is already in the Tao reasoning realm?" Luo Xingchen asked in surprise. "Didn't you say that Ah man just stepped into the Tao sense realm not long ago?" "I don't know." When Ah man and senior sister Dai left, they were still in the early stage of the Tao sense realm. Ning Chen replied. Luo Xingchen did not ask any more questions. He drew his star mark bow, and an azure arrow appeared. In front of Butian Pavilion, Hua Zhongye and Ah Man's figures flashed past. Their swords and sabers were drawn, drawing the line between life and death. Not far away, Xia Zi and Mu Qianshang also flew over, joining forces to stop the 10 half-step Tao destroyers. Outside the battle, Luo Fei's moonlight rose and shrouded the battlefield. The battle began. In the void, Ning Chen's body suddenly shook as he looked behind the 10 old men in ancient clothes. Death chi filled the sky as the 11th wooden coffin appeared. A woman walked out of the coffin. She wore a red wedding dress and had a charming appearance. Chapter 1493. In front of Heaven Mending Pavilion, the flames of war raged. After the 10 half-step Tao extinguishers, a woman in a red wedding dress walked out of the wooden coffin. Her powerful aura shocked the million-strong army. Tao extinguishers, and they were even more powerful than Rain Revered and Night Chief. Their aura of death filled the air, shocking everyone. Seeing the woman walk out of the wooden coffin, the people from the inner realm were all shocked. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. In the void, Ning Chen's eyes flashed. He stepped forward and rushed forward. After the 10 half-step Tao extinguishers, the woman in red sensed something. She looked up at the man rushing over. Her delicate hand gathered energy, and she met him with a palm. Ghost energy filled the air, destroying everything in its path. Everywhere it passed, there was no life. The power of destruction, the annihilation of all laws, the annihilation of Tao realm ghosts, made people shudder. In the void, a white-clothed figure rushed over. Divine light shone around her, blocking the ghost energy. Behind Ningchen, the divine halo that symbolized his identity as a deity burned even brighter. It was impervious to everything. In an instant, the two figures approached each other. Their palms collided, and ghosts and gods clashed. With a honglong sound, divine light and ghost energy clashed. Separated by the red veil, the two looked at each other with cold eyes. The woman in red's moves changed. She took a step forward. Her slightly pale and slender hand gathered the power of ghosts. It was endless and merciless. Ningchen returned the attack. In close proximity, their palms collided. Boom! Divine power shook the heavens. Every move of the two had the power to shake the world. The strength of their bodies was shocking. After exchanging several moves, Ningchen's mood became heavier and heavier. It was the ghost woman. Although their realms were different, their moves and battle techniques were all ghost woman's. Why was it like this? The aura of time on this person's body was at least hundreds of thousands of years old. Although it wasn't as old as the woman in the Immortal Corpse Patrol, it wasn't far off. Why were there so many similar flowers in the world? What was the secret behind all of this? While thinking, Ningchen's attacks became heavier and heavier. He knew that in order to find out the truth, he had to capture this person alive. Boom! The two's moves collided, and a terrifying shockwave spread out. All the soldiers within 100 li of the two were sent flying. It was difficult for them to approach. 9 Heavens star-picking hand, rising rain. The Qilin's ultimate technique appeared again. Ningchen gathered all of his power to capture the woman in front of him. The woman in red did not dodge. She blocked the attack with her palm. At the same time, her figure flew into the air. Ghost chi filled the air, as if it was a prison. The ghostly energy was as heavy as a mountain. Ningchen raised his head and looked at the lady in red who was descending from the sky. He gathered his primordial energy in his palms and the divine light shone again. 12 styles of spiritual rhino, sky-propping waterfall. The moon worship ultimate technique was world-shaking. Raging waves soared into the sky, welcoming the incoming attack. Ghost chi and divine essence clashed again. Terrifying shockwaves swept out, startling the clouds in the 9 heavens and causing the sky to change color. This was the strongest battle, a battle at the level of Tao annihilation. Neither of them held back. Every move they made was as if their lives depended on it, shocking the world. Outside the battle, Luo Xing glanced at the battle in the distance and couldn't help but be speechless. Knowing destiny was really ruthless. His opponent looked so much like a ghost girl, yet he still had the heart to attack her. Boom! In front of Heaven Mending Pavilion, a world-shocking battle was taking place. The sounds of battle rumbled as it resounded within 100,000 li. The woman in red had a high cultivation level. Ghost chi lingered around her body, and her destructive power was indestructible. However, knowing destiny, who had experienced the faith of hundreds of millions of creatures in Taijing sky, gathered his 3 bodies and cultivated the divine Tao fruit. His body was divine and impenetrable. The most powerful spear and the most powerful shield. The two forces clashed and fought for a moment. In front of the Heaven Mending Divine Palace and the Heaven Mending Divine Palace, 2 figures stood quietly. Heaven Mending Pavilion Master and Heaven Mending Xian Zun, the 2 most powerful giants of Heaven Mending Pavilion, quietly watched this battle. In just a few dozen years, this child has already grown to such an extent. It is truly shocking. Heaven Mending Pavilion Master said with a serious expression. We are old. Zun Xian said calmly. Zun Xian, with your ability, can you capture this child alive? Heaven Mending Pavilion Master asked seriously. I can't. Zun Xian shook his head and said, this Marquis Ning is no longer someone who can be trampled on. Pavilion Master, the word, capture, is a bit of an insult. Heaven Mending Pavilion Master was silent. If possible, he really wanted to take this child for his own use. If not, he could only bear the pain and destroy him. While the 2 Heaven Mending giants were talking, the battle in front of Heaven Mending Pavilion became more and more intense. Ningchen used all of his strength and gradually suppressed the red-clothed woman's sharpness. In a short distance, the two's palms intertwined. Every move was a life and death struggle. The red-clothed woman was emotionless and emotionless. Every move she made was a killing move. Her pair of slender hands were more powerful than any divine weapon. In a direct confrontation, divine light lingered around Ning Chen's body. After exchanging hundreds of moves, he saw an opportunity and grabbed the red-clothed woman's shoulder. Green Dragon Fall. Ning Chen pressed down with his right hand. His divine power was astonishing as he wanted to restrain the woman in front of him. Ghost Desolation Art, Sky Bearing. Under the pressure of the huge force, the red-clothed woman did not dodge. She lightly shouted and similarly erupted with divine power, forcibly blocking the huge force. The two waves of divine power clashed. Below the two, the ground collapsed, and waves of dust covered the eyes. Ghost Desolation Art, 8 Extremes Collapsing Heaven. In a short distance, the red-clothed woman once again erupted with astonishing power. She slapped out with her palm and imprinted it on Ji Ming's chest. With a loud bang, Ning Chen's figure retreated dozens of zhang. The divine energy around his body violently shook. In the air, Luo Xingchen's eyelids twitched. Ji Ming was beaten up by the ghostly woman? Dozens of zhang away, blood dripped from the corner of Ning Chen's mouth. After a while, his divine energy flourished and healed his internal injuries. He was too careless. When he saw the ghostly woman's Ghost Desolation Art, he was somewhat distracted. Ji Ming, what are you standing there for? Go. You can't even defeat your own wife. This is too embarrassing. In the void, Luo Xingchen shouted loudly, causing thousands of people to turn around in shock. Scram! Ning Chen stretched out his hand to wipe off the blood at the corner of his mouth. Then he rushed out and rejoined the battle. Under the red veil, ghostly qi lingered in the red-clothed woman's eyes. They were abnormally cold. She clenched her fists, and her Ghost Desolation Art quickly surged. Just at this moment, Ning Chen's figure suddenly disappeared from the battle. He moved extremely quickly and instantly appeared behind the red-clothed woman. Ha! The red-clothed woman's expression turned grave. She turned around and threw out a palm. The shocking palm energy could split the sky. However, the palm energy passed through Ning Chen's body, and his figure turned illusory. After her palm missed, the red-clothed woman was shocked. She wanted to withdraw her attack, but it was too late. Ning Chen's figure reappeared in front of her. He raised his hand and grabbed the woman's shoulder again. Green Dragon Fall. Ning Chen's divine energy exploded. It was the same move, but its power was even stronger than before. The red-clothed woman, who could not retaliate in time, could not resist such a huge force. Her body involuntarily smashed into the ground. The huge force caused the ground to crack. Blood flowed from the corner of the red-clothed woman's mouth. She propped herself up and wanted to counterattack. However, Ning Chen, who had the upper hand, did not give her another chance. He threw out another palm and directly smashed the red-clothed woman into the ground. The violent battle caused Luo Xingchen's eyelids to twitch. This brat Ji Ming was really ruthless. Was he not afraid of killing the ghostly woman? In front of Bu Tian Pavilion, the red-clothed woman coughed out blood. A huge crater was formed under her. In the crater, ghostly qi filled the air. The red-clothed woman stood up again. Just as she was about to attack, she saw a green coffin in the sky. It directly sealed her inside. In the next moment, Ning Chen's figure arrived. He formed a seal with both of his hands. Divine light flourished and completely sealed the green coffin. Stay inside for a while. Wait until I take down Bu Tian Pavilion, then I will let you out. While speaking, Ning Chen waved his hand and put away the green coffin. He looked at the two figures in Bu Tian Pavilion in the distance. His expression turned cold. You too, after watching for so long, have you seen enough? Chapter 1494. In front of the heaven-mending pavilion, Ning Chen defeated the red-clothed woman and provoked the two most powerful figures of the heaven-mending pavilion. In front of the heaven-mending divine palace, the two heaven-mending giants' expressions turned cold. Chilliness flickered in their eyes. In the end, they still came to this point. Let me do it. In front of the heaven-mending divine palace, the heaven-mending pavilion master said indifferently and walked forward. The heaven-mending pavilion master personally made a move. On the battlefield, everyone was shocked and revealed an expression of disbelief. The pavilion master had not made a move for tens of thousands of years. Today, he made an exception for this Marquis Ning. In front of the heaven-mending divine palace, Elder Xian's face did not show any surprise. He looked at the back of the heaven-mending pavilion master and slightly narrowed his eyes. Was his battle intent aroused by this Marquis Ning? It was hard to find a worthy opponent in a battle between powerhouses. This Marquis Ning was undoubtedly a powerhouse. In front of the heaven-mending pavilion, Ning Chen saw the person who came and his expression also became serious. The heaven-mending pavilion master, a legendary powerhouse and almost a mythical figure, finally could not sit still? Ning Chen raised his hand and sword pressure filled the air. The execution immortal sword appeared out of thin air. Facing a powerhouse of this level, he would not be careless. On the battlefield, the powerhouses confronted each other. Their divine might shook the heaven and earth. The powerhouses who stood at the peak of the world finally met. Please. Without any exchange of words, the two figures instantly rushed out on the battlefield. The confrontation between the powerhouses caused the flames of war to spread for tens of thousands of miles. The auras around the two clashed, frightening even gods and ghosts. The heaven-mending pavilion master used his peerless cultivation. With a raise of his hand, heaven and earth darkened. Facing an opponent he had never met before, Ning Chen's execution immortal sword danced like lightning. His battle strength was pushed to the limit as he faced the strongest opponent in his life. In a close battle, life and death were on the line. The two fought with their fists and palms. Sword light followed. Heavy moves intertwined and each move was deadly. The heaven-mending pavilion master's body was extremely powerful. With his peerless cultivation, he could be said to be unrivaled in a region. Every move he made directly broke through the void. 10 moves collided. Execution immortal sword's fierce palm. Behind Ning Chen, divine light was dazzling. He was like a divine king, slaying demons and evil. It was an all-out white-hot battle. Their battle prowess gradually reached its peak, like two divine suns rising into the sky, illuminating the mortal world. Palm after palm accumulated, sword after sword was breathtaking. In the battle, the two figures continuously intersected, piercing through space and shattering the universe. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the two of them fought from the sky to the ground. All of the formation patterns around Heaven-Mending Pavilion were shattered by the shockwaves from the battle between the two of them. One after another, the ground sank, and it was a scene of devastation. While the two were fighting, in front of Heaven-Mending Pavilion, Xia Zi and the others led the army to defeat the Heaven-Mending Army's resistance and gradually approached the Heaven-Mending Divine Palace. 10 half-step Dao destroyers had died in battle one after another. These old monsters, who should have been buried deep in the earth, were no longer at their peak even though they had survived to this era with their secret techniques. Inside the Heaven-Mending Divine Palace, silhouettes after silhouettes flew out from the shrouding mist. Heaven-Mending Pavilion's hidden trump cards were all revealed today. The battle started again. Demonic Qi soared to the sky. The demonic Qi around Xia Zi and Hua Zhongdia clashed violently, drowning the whole battle. This was a battle between gods and demons. After thousands of years of cultivation, the geniuses of the inner realm finally had the power to contend against gods and demons. After a great battle, blood dyed thousands of miles. In the sky above the battlefield, two silhouettes collided with a loud bang. Dazzling brilliance blossomed. Thunder from the 9 heavens shook the world and shocked the gods and demons. What a powerful sword technique! In front of the Heaven Palace, Sovereign Xian looked at the battle in the sky. A strange expression flashed across his eyes. In the battle, Bai Yi's silhouette constantly flashed. Her figure became faster and faster, and her sword aura became heavier and heavier. With such ability, you should not fall here. Marquis Ning, are you willing to be used by me? There is a place for you in Heaven Mending Pavilion. The Heaven Mending Pavilion Master raised his hand to block the execution immortal sword and said with a serious expression, "Many thanks for Pavilion Master's good intentions. Since I have fought my way here, I have no intention of turning back." After saying this, Ning Chen's right arm activated another 30% of his divine power. With a loud bang, he broke through the battle. His left hand pointed forward, and his sword opened the Yellow Springs Road. The Heaven Mending Pavilion Master waved his hand to disperse the sword chi and said, "Marquis Ning, you are an ambitious and ruthless person. However, do you really think you can defeat Heaven Mending Pavilion by yourself? I have never been alone." Ning Chen glanced at his friends who were fighting a bloody battle below and said, "Traditions are always broken. Heaven Mending Pavilion has ruled the southeastern region for too long. It is time for a change of dynasty." Hearing this, the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master's expression completely sank. He said, "If you want a change of dynasty, you have to get past me first." After saying this, the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master flipped his hands. Immediately, wind and thunder appeared above the 9 heavens. A huge crack appeared, shocking the world. In the next moment, in the void, illusory figures appeared one after another. Every person's appearance could not be seen. Divine light shone around their bodies, making them look divine and extraordinary. The scene of deities mending the heavens shocked the world. Heaven Mending Technique. In the void, Ning Chen looked at the scene above and squinted his eyes. The legendary forbidden technique, Heaven Mending Pavilion's technique. With the forbidden technique in front of him, Ning Chen did not dare to be careless. With a long shout, he waved the execution immortal sword in his hand. 10,000 swords broke through the sky. In an instant, 10,000 swords were arranged in the void. They crisscrossed and were incomparably magnificent. Dusk of the Gods. On the battlefield, the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master put his palms together. In the sky, in the huge crack, raging waves swept across the world. The terrifying power reappeared as if the ancient sky had collapsed. The catastrophe descended. Below, Ning Chen stepped forward and waved his sword into the sky. Immediately, tens of thousands of swords flew into the 9 heavens and blocked the catastrophe. Under the crack in the sky, the raging waves crushed the tens of thousands of swords. The unstoppable catastrophe continued to descend. Below, Ning Chen squinted his eyes. He held his sword in front of his body. With both hands holding the sword, divine light illuminated the 9 continents. Setting the universe, turning the wheel of reincarnation, the way of the Taishang, the sword reverses the heaven and earth. The catastrophe descended. Ning Chen opened the Tao Demon Combination Technique. The demonic 9 transformations merged with the Taishang Forbidden Sword. Immediately, a surge of heaven's might swept out. With the power of faith from billions of creatures, the divine halo behind Ning Chen became more and more brilliant. Around his body, 9 celestial lights appeared out of nowhere. Within the celestial lights, 9 divine swords shone brightly. The power of the 9 swords was shocking. After a moment, the 9 divine swords rushed into the sky and rotated. In the vast chaos, they reversed the reincarnation cycle and destroyed the heaven and earth. Above the 9 heavens, the 2 most extreme forces collided. The terrifying impact shook the world and changed the color of the sky. A draw? In front of the heavenly palace, Bu Tian Xianzun looked at the battle in the sky. Light flickered in his eyes. No, it was not over yet. In the sky, under the crazy wind and clouds, the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master's figure flashed past. With one palm, he dispersed the aftermath and arrived in front of the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master in a flash. Ning Chen stopped. His left palm condensed yuan. A vast palm rushed out with a roar. The 2 palms met. Divine yuan clashed. At this moment, above the 9 heavens, one of the figures moved. He waved his hand and refined the 100 peaks. He used the stones of the other mountains to repair the broken sky. Imperial Universe 100 Refinement. Below, the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master used the same technique. The terrifying power rose rapidly and pushed the heaven-mending pavilion master back. 100 zhang away, Ning Chen stopped. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. It was a shocking scene. After countless years, the heaven-mending technique appeared again. After one move, above the 9 heavens, the second figure moved. Controlling the wind with his palm, he stopped the crack in the sky from spreading. Wind of heaven and earth. Below, the heaven-mending pavilion master used the same technique. With the support of the shocking divine power, the roar was like a crazy wave. 100 zhang away, a crazy wind attacked. Ning Chen's figure was pushed back another 100 zhang. The hand holding the sword was dyed red. In front of the heavenly palace, Bu Tian Xianzun looked at the battle in the sky. A strange light flashed in his eyes again. Was this the end of the legend of Marquis? Unfortunately, this child was so outstanding that for a moment, he really thought that history would be rewritten. Chapter 1495. In front of heaven-mending pavilion, the two armies fought a decisive battle. The flames of war burned through every corner of the battlefield, and corpses piled up into mountains. In the void, knowing destiny was fighting against Bu Tian Pavilion Master. The battle was extremely intense. Facing Marquis Ning's astonishing sword technique, the heaven-mending pavilion master used the heaven-mending technique for the first time. Numerous deities appeared in the human world, their divine might shocking the world. This was a forbidden technique, the heaven-mending technique. Its might was terrifying to the point of shocking others. It was a technique that was corroborated by heaven and earth, causing gods and ghosts to tremble. The situation of the battle was reversed. Ning Chen was heavily injured, and the corner of his mouth was red. 10 zhang away, Ning Chen gazed at the heaven-mending pavilion master in front of him. The divine light around his body became even more dazzling. After cultivating the god body, Ning Chen's 3 bodies had a steady stream of vitality, and his injuries were quickly recovering. Is that all you've got? 10 zhang away, the heaven-mending pavilion master moved. In the blink of an eye, the 10 zhang distance was covered. That palm strike was earth-shattering. Ning Chen wielded his sword to block the palm power, and his body slid back a few feet. The battle was not going well. Ning Chen's left palm was filled with energy. Many huge dragons roared and rushed forward. The heaven-mending pavilion master flipped his palm. Divine essence surged, blocking one giant dragon after another. After the 9 dragons, Ning Chen's figure flashed past at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the heaven-mending pavilion master. The execution of immortals was like lightning, and its baleful aura surged like a wave. It blasted open the divine essence barrier in front of the heaven-mending pavilion master. The number 1 divine sword under the heavens was incomparably sharp. Layers upon layers of sword chi overlapped to break through the heaven-mending pavilion master's body. The heaven-mending pavilion master frowned. He clasped his hands together to block the execution immortal blade. The East Immortal Realm's immortal slaying sword. The heaven-mending pavilion master looked at the immortal sword in front of him, and a strange light flashed through his eyes. Strange, weren't the 4 immortal exterminating swords destroyed with the collapse of the 4 immortal realms? The immortal slaying sword in front of him was actually completely undamaged. Devil flame burning the heavens. The immortal slaying was restrained. Ning Chen's demonic flames burned brightly. The immortal sword turned around and the demonic flames spread for 3,000 miles. Demonic flames engulfed his body, and his demonic might shook the heavens. Heaven-mending pavilion master crossed his arms and forcefully blocked the counterattack. As the 2 forces collided, the battle was separated. 10 steps away, Ning Chen held his sword in front of him, his sword intent rising again. Too slow. Seeing this, the heaven-mending pavilion master took a step forward. At the same time, above the 9th heaven, an illusory figure moved. The figure was like lightning as it wandered between one mountain after another, moving mountains to seal up the scars in the sky. Below, the heaven-mending pavilion master arrived at life knowing at an unimaginable speed. The sword energy had just begun to accumulate and had not yet reached its limit. Bu Tian Pavilion Master's fist energy had already arrived. With a shocking move, it shattered the sword light around Ning Chen's body. Caught off guard by this punch, Ning Chen's figure was directly blasted back by 300 meters, divine essence violently surging around his body. The unfathomable heaven-mending technique had astonishing moves and unpredictable transformations. 100 zhang away, Ning Chen stopped. He lifted his hand to suppress the injuries in his body. His indestructible body quickly recovered. The battle gradually tilted. Bu Tian Pavilion Master, who had the absolute advantage in terms of cultivation, used the heaven-mending technique to completely suppress the life-knowing cultivators. However, even though he had the upper hand in this battle, Bu Tian Pavilion Master's expression did not show any signs of carelessness. He knew very well that the young man before him had yet to reach his limit. Sovereign Xian frowned as he watched the battle in front of the heavenly palace. Something was wrong. Even though that young man was at a disadvantage, his injuries were not as serious as expected. If that was the case, there was only one answer. This Marquis still had some strength left. In the void, Ning Chen glanced at the illusory figures in the sky. After a while, he withdrew his gaze. There was still one person who had not made a move yet. Ning Chen stepped forward and his figure flew out. One of his palms was filled with energy, while the other hand was controlling the sword. Bu Tian Pavilion Master flipped his palm to block the attack. In a short distance, the two's gazes met. The immortal sword in Ning Chen's hand changed direction and attacked the former like lightning. Bu Tian Pavilion Master did not show any weakness. His moves were like thunder, blocking one attack after another. After exchanging a few moves, a 10,000 zhang tall demonic figure suddenly appeared behind Ning Chen. With a punch, the sky collapsed and the earth fell. Facing such a terrifying attack, Bu Tian Pavilion Master's expression did not show any signs of panic. With a shout, he faced the attack head-on. At this moment, the last illusory figure in the sky moved. Its body continuously grew taller, and in an instant, it was tens of thousands of zhang tall. Under the apocalypse, the huge deity used its body to support the sky. Its shocking divine power assisted the others in mending the sky. Below, the demonic figure's fist smashed down. Bu Tian Pavilion Master did not dodge and met it head-on. Behind him, a huge deity also appeared. With a rumbling sound, the demonic figure collapsed. As the deity and the demon fought, knowing destiny was once again heavily injured. Blood splashed out, dyeing half of his plain clothes red. 100 zhang away, Ning Chen's figure stopped. He raised his hand to wipe off the blood at the corner of his mouth. So this was the heaven-mending technique. I've learned a lot. Using the heaven and earth to verify the ancient technique of mending the sky was equivalent to several deities attacking at the same time. It was indeed extraordinary. However, if it was not his own power, it was not invulnerable. Ha! Knowing himself and knowing his enemy, Ning Chen no longer hid. With a shout, the energy of the deities and demons around his body surged out. Life has a wheel, death has a wheel, and life and death have a cycle of reincarnation. After facing life and death so many times and going against the heavens, Ning Chen understood the reversal of yin and yang for the first time. The energy of the deities and demons around his body circulated, forming a huge Tai Chi diagram that rose into the sky. The black and white Tai Chi diagram condensed the yin and yang of heaven and earth. It rotated the cycle of reincarnation and crazily absorbed all the spiritual energy in the world. This shocking technique shocked all the worlds in the 9 heavens. Above the horizon, thunder roared, and dark clouds covered the sun. In the battle, Ning Chen stood under the Tai Chi diagram. His whole body was dazzling, as if a deity from the 9 heavens had descended. His divine might was inviolable. In the blink of an eye, Ning Chen took a step forward and arrived in front of Bu Tian Pavilion Master. Bu Tian Pavilion Master's expression darkened. Borrowing the power of the deities, he blocked the attack with his fist. The two forces clashed, creating a raging storm. In the battle, the two figures were as immovable as mountains. They were actually evenly matched. Not good. In front of the temple of Muddy Heaven, Lord Xian's expression changed when he saw this scene. He took a step forward and disappeared. In the sky, amidst the raging waves, Ning Chen's lips curled up. He changed the direction of his sword and slashed out again. It was an ordinary slash without any changes. It was just the most basic slash. However, at this moment, it was like the scythe of the god of death that could not be avoided. The origin of the sword was fast, accurate, and focused. This slash was too fast. It was so fast that time seemed to have stopped. In front of everyone's shocked gazes, everything in the world became silent as if it had died. The execution of the celestial sword slashed past, bringing with it a waterfall of blood. A terrifying sword wound appeared on Butian Pavilion Master's chest. It was so deep that his bones could be seen. After that slash, Ningchen did not stop. The sword opened a path to the underworld and slashed towards Butian Pavilion Master's throat. At this moment, a figure flashed past in the battle. He was not affected by the frozen time and entered the battle. Lord Xian raised his hand and blocked the sword. Then, he brought Butian Pavilion Master out of the battle. After a moment, time returned to normal. Everyone came back to their senses. No one knew what had happened. In the sky, 100 zhang away, Butian Pavilion Master's chest was bleeding, dyeing his clothes red. On the side, Lord Xian looked at the young man in front of him with a serious expression. Just a moment ago, this Marquis Ning stepped into a whole new realm. A realm that even they were bitterly searching for. Pavilion Master, how about we work together? Lord Xian opened his mouth and said calmly. Butian Pavilion Master pressed down his wounds and did not refuse. He nodded and said, okay. Although he was careless just now, he still felt the threat of death. In front of him, under the black and white Tai Chi diagram, Ningchen looked at the two people in front of him. His left hand grasped the air, and the second immortal sword appeared. Marquis Ning, please? Lord Xian opened his mouth and said seriously, please. Ningchen replied. His two swords crossed, and a shocking sword intense soared into the sky. The two swords were raised, and the black and white Tai Chi diagram quickly rotated. In the battle, black and white sword lights appeared at the same time. Thousands of them appeared, and it was difficult to distinguish between real and fake. In the next moment, silver light rose around Ning Chen's body. It was dazzling. Deity realm. Lord Xian and Butian Pavilion Master saw this and their expressions became serious. Was this the real Marquis Ning? Chapter 1496. Above Heaven Mending Pavilion, in the final battle, Ning Chen showed his full power for the first time. He held the execution immortal twin swords with a black and white taiji diagram above his head. Behind him, a divine ring curled up. Facing Ning Ho, who had gathered all his power, Senior Xian did not choose to watch the battle. He showed himself and joined the battle. Heaven Mending Pavilion's two most powerful big shots both made their moves. The battle immediately changed again. Senior Xian made his move, controlling the thunder of heaven and earth. His astonishing ability shocked everyone. In the blink of an eye, Senior Xian's figure arrived in front of Ji Ming. He punched out, causing thunder to shake the heavens. With extreme speed, the way of thunder was unstoppable. Wherever it passed, it was filled with glaring thunder. Under the taiji diagram, Ning Chen did not dodge. He waved the execution immortal and blocked the thunder. On the other side, the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master moved at the same time. His heavy palm condensed energy, causing the earth to shatter. The attack arrived again. Ning Chen's left hand moved the execution immortal and used the powerful immortal sword to block the attack. The three people exchanged blows. Senior Xian and the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master's figures moved at the same time. Thunder and heavy palms were endless. Powerful attacks continuously pressed down. In the center of the battle, Ning Chen's left hand sent the execution immortal to block the heavy palms. He also used the execution immortal to shake the thunder. With one heavy and one fast, the two swords danced at the same time. He did not fall behind at all. Fast, fast, fast. Life hung on the sword. Heavy, heavy. The immortal sword broke through the mortal world. The wind and clouds in front of Heaven Mending Pavilion changed. It shook the 9 heavens and 10,000 deities. The lightning was extremely fast. The phoenix was extremely fast. On the battlefield, the two people's figures turned into flowing lights. They were unbelievably fast. Every time they collided, a crack would appear in the void. The sword light and thunder attacked with unstoppable force. Around the battlefield, numerous mountain peaks collapsed and disappeared due to the aftermath of the battle between the two of them. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of moves had exchanged. It was hard to tell who was superior in terms of speed. At the same time, on the ground below, the heaven-mending pavilion master condensed his divine energy. His aura was endless. He used the heaven-mending technique again. His powerful divine might shook the heaven and earth. The power of his palms could topple mountains and overturn seas. At the same time, Bai's figure flashed past. The execution immortal's sword power overflowed the heavens. Power and foundation, terrifying shockwaves spread out. The ground below the two people's bodies collapsed. The surging waves of sand covered the sky and the sun. Ning Chen exerted another 30% of his strength, and the immortal slaughtering sword shone brightly, suppressing his opponent with all his might. Both of heaven-mending pavilion master's legs sank into the ground. With a deep shout, he flipped his palm and shook off the battle. Ning Chen took a step forward and leaped 10 feet away. He swung his sword and sword chi surged out. The heaven-mending pavilion master waved his hand to disperse the sword chi. He took a step forward and rushed forward. At the same time, lightning flashed in the sky. Zun Xian arrived and punched the sky. Ning Chen turned around and used his two swords to block the two attacks. Demonic chi surged around him, shaking the heaven and earth. In the fierce battle, knowing destiny blocked two path destroyers on his own. Now that he was in the divinity, his combat strength had doubled. The silver brilliance was dazzling. It circled around knowing destiny. After a short while, he disappeared again. Behind Bu Tian Pavilion Master, Ning Chen's figure appeared. With a wave of his sword, the tip of the sword pierced through the air. Boom! The heaven-mending Pavilion Master turned around, and with a flip of his palm, he blocked the sword tip. In the blink of an eye, Ning Chen's immortal-slaying sword slashed out again, cutting through the limitations of space-time. The stagnant time and space seemed to have come to a standstill. The extreme speed that surpassed the laws of time once again broke the deadlock, and a glaring flower of blood appeared on heaven-mending Pavilion Master's chest. At this moment, Venerable Xian arrived from behind. He controlled the lightning and threw a punch. The two swords in Ning Chen's hands crisscrossed and blocked the attack. With the impact of the lightning, Ning Chen took half a step back. Venerable Xian's figure rushed forward again. 10,000 lightning flashed, and the attack was like a storm. Suddenly, within the 10,000 lightning, cold air burst out. Ning Chen's figure was destroyed, and when he reappeared, he was already 100 zhang away. The ice heart technique was used. Ning Chen's two swords slashed through the air, and two streaks of sword chi pierced through the air. Venerable Xian's expression became serious. He dodged the two streaks of sword chi and lost the initiative. Ning Chen stepped forward, and his figure rushed forward. Killing immortal slaying sword was like 10,000 mountains falling down. Venerable Xian raised his hand to block the attack. With a rumble, his figure fell rapidly. In the sky, Ning Chen's figure flashed again. His two swords joined together, and the two streaks of sword chi pierced through the air. Heaven and earth resonance, life and death defying fate. The heaven and earth combined again. The sword chi cut through the air and slashed toward Venerable Xian. While falling, Venerable Xian's body was surrounded by lightning again. He stepped forward and flew into the sky. Unexpectedly, the immortal slaying double rainbow followed him like a shadow. Venerable Xian blocked the sword and was hit. Blood splashed out from his left shoulder and dyed his clothes red. At the same time, the moment Ning Chen's two swords left his hands, Bu Tian Pavilion Master disregarded his injuries and rushed forward. His palm technique was majestic and forceful. 9 Heaven's star-plucking hand. When the palm technique approached, Ning Chen did not retreat even half a step. His world-shocking palm met the attack head-on. The two palms collided, and a raging wave swept out. The two's martial arts collided head-on, and the aftermath was vast and mighty. "Raise your sword." Ning Chen stepped forward. Below him, 10,000 black and white sword chi pierced through the air. The sword chi was pressing toward his life. Bu Tian Pavilion Master's expression shook, and he retreated a few steps. Ning Chen waved his hand, and the killing immortal slaying sword appeared in his hand. His figure rushed forward again. Within the 10,000 sword chi, Bu Tian Pavilion Master dodged layers of sword chi. His mind was still unsettled, and the killing immortal slaying sword arrived in front of him. As the crisis approached, Bu Tian Pavilion Master raised his hand and directly grabbed the killing immortal slaying sword's tip. The tip of the sword pushed an inch by inch, and a dazzling fountain of blood blossomed. Ah! The tip of the sword entered his body, and a dazzling vermilion color appeared. In front of Bu Tian Pavilion Master's chest, the tip of the sword was stained with blood, and the baleful aura became even stronger. In a 1-against-2 battle, Knowing Destiny gradually suppressed the two heaven-mending giants and gained the upper hand. Below, many heaven-mending pavilion experts saw the battle in the sky and were shocked. Knowing Destiny, this brat is so fierce. Luo Xingxin's eyelids twitched. Knowing Destiny's battle prowess was too shocking. Don't just stand there. Quickly deal with these people and go help him. Not far away, Mu Qianshang killed a heaven-mending pavilion lord with a swing of his sword. He looked at the sky and said in a deep voice. Luo Xingxin nodded. The star mark bow in his hand was fully drawn, and arrow lights pierced through the sky like rain. On the battlefield, nearly half of the 10 half-step Dao extinguishing old monsters in ancient clothing died, and the remaining few were also heavily injured. At the front of the battlefield, Hua Zhongdie was fighting while bathed in blood. Her blue dress was stained with blood, both hers and the enemy's. In order to finish the battle as soon as possible, she was already desperate. With the help of friends from the inner realm, the pressure on Ning Chen was reduced to the greatest extent. He was able to focus on dealing with the two heaven-mending giants. I'll go help him. After killing another half-step Dao destroyer old monster, Butterfly in the Flowers stepped into the sky, ignoring the injuries on her body. Below, Xiazi saw this and narrowed his eyes. He also stepped forward and flew toward the battle in the sky. It was time to end this battle. Demonic Butterfly and Xiazi flew into the sky at the same time. In the sky, demonic aura suddenly filled the sky and covered the sun. Seeing this, Ning Chen changed his cultivation technique and activated his 3 bodies to dissipate the demonic aura. In an instant, 3 demons filled the sky and their demonic aura shook the world. The strongest demons, Ning Chen, Xiazi, and Hua Zhongdie, emitted endless demonic aura that shook the world. Behind the 3 of them, huge demonic wings appeared at the same time. Their demonic aura suddenly multiplied. In the battle, Lord Xian and Heaven-Mending Pavilion Lord felt the powerful demonic aura from the 3 and were shocked. Diawu Nether King. The flower burial tear in Hua Zhongye's hand exploded with shocking demonic aura. Behind her, a pair of black and dazzling butterfly wings spread out. Madness of Doomsday. Not far away behind Xiazi, the 12 wings of sin spread out. Black feathers fluttered in the wind. The demonic sword in his hand was raised to the extreme and turned into a 6-foot-long demonic blade that shook the 9 heavens. The 2 demons displayed their strongest demonic aura. In the middle, Ning Chen's 2 swords rotated. The divine ring behind him gradually turned black and turned into a demon. In an instant, the 3 figures disappeared at the same time and restarted the battle. Lord Xian and Heaven-Mending Pavilion Lord's expressions changed slightly. Just as they were about to block, their bodies turned red. The 3 demons' figures intertwined with each other. They were extremely fast. Their demonic wings shook, and their swords and sabers shocked the world. Below, Luofei saw the opportunity and shouted. Her delicate hands condensed the essence of heaven and earth. The moonlight around her flourished and divine light spread out. In an instant, the void around Heaven-Mending Pavilion became still. It was as if the world had died. At this moment, vermilion red splattered in the sky, dyeing the blue sky red. Chapter 1497. In the sky above Heaven Mending Pavilion, Mo Dai and Xia Zi joined the battle for the last time. Ning Chen transformed from a deity into a devil at the same time. With 3 devils in the same sky, the demonic aura shook the 9 continents. The 3 demons moved. At the same time, Madame Luofei stimulated her heavenly book martial arts. Moonlight spread out, sealing away the world. In the blink of an eye, the 3 devils' figures flashed past. Heaven Mending Pavilion Master and Senior Xian's expressions shook at the same time, and their bodies were dyed red. The most shocking scene was that the Heaven Mending Pavilion's 2 great Tao exterminating giants were injured. Even though they barely avoided the fatal blow, they still suffered serious injuries. Huge demonic wings flapped behind Xia Zi and Butterfly in the Flower. Their terrifying demonic nature was more powerful than any other demon in the world. In the center of the battle, Ning Chen activated his sword domain. Black and white sword lights crisscrossed, sealing off the battle. Amidst the blinding sword light, the figures of the 3 demons streaked across the sky. They gathered all of their power and unleashed all of their combat prowess. Facing the extreme devil, Zun Xian and the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master were completely on the defensive. However, if they continued to defend, they would definitely lose. Within the black and white sword light that filled the sky, one could only see a waterfall of blood splashing out. The Heaven Mending Pavilion Master, who was already injured, could no longer defend against the 3 devils' astonishing attacks. His injuries worsened. In the battle, Zun Xian's expression darkened when he saw this. Lightning curled around his body, blocking half of the attacks for the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master. Bu Tian Pavilion Master, Senior Xian, you are at the end of your road. The 2 extreme powers collided. Amidst the turbulent sword light, Ning Chen's silhouette swept to the front of the 2. The Immortal Slaying and Immortal Slaying were like the dawn breaking through the darkness. They were so dazzling that they slashed through the sky. The astonishing Immortal Sword was accompanied by tens of thousands of black and white sword lights. The power of a single sword could fight against the sun and moon. The 2 of them blocked the attack. The corners of Heaven Mending Pavilion Master's mouth turned red as he flew back several zhang. Not far away, Zun Xian raised his hand to block the sword light. Seeing the heavily injured Heaven Mending Pavilion Master, he took a step back and rushed forward like a bolt of lightning. At this moment, a demonic shadow flashed between the 2 of them. The mad doomsday tore through the void, mercilessly pressing for their lives. Zun Xian's expression changed slightly. He turned around and dodged the demonic might. When Xia Zi moved to stop Venerable Xian, the demonic butterflies swept past from behind. The flower burial blade appeared and slashed towards the injured Heaven Mending Pavilion Master. As the killing intent approached, the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master suppressed his injuries and used the Heaven Mending technique again. Immediately, the divine energy around Bu Tian Pavilion Master's body flourished, and his unparalleled divine power blocked the flower burial strike. Demonic energy and divine energy clashed against each other. After a moment of deadlock, a plain-clothed figure appeared behind the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master. It was so fast that no one could react to it. The execution of the immortals streaked across. Heaven Mending Pavilion Master's body trembled, and before he could take one last look at the world, his head flew up, and blood dyed the blue sky red. In the void sky, knowing destiny stood quietly in the divine region, covered in silver light. Even his eyes turned into a strange silver color. Outside the silver brilliance, black demonic chi surged like a tide. The demonic might was shocking, and it shook the heavens and the earth. The Heaven Mending Pavilion Master died in battle. His soul flew out in an attempt to escape. However, it was already too late. Ning Chen raised his hand. Demonic energy surged out and directly swallowed the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master's soul. Not far away, Venerable Xian's expression darkened. He punched away the demonic cultivator in front of him and rushed forward. Ning Chen brandished his sword. Sword chi swept out and forced Venerable Xian to retreat. Behind them, Xia Zi and Hua Zhongye arrived. Their eyes were fixed on Lord Xian, who was the last one standing. They did not dare to underestimate him. This person's strength was very strong, even above Pavilion Master Butian. Zun Xian, who was standing 100 feet away, looked down at the battlefield and sighed. He had lost. They had completely lost. After a while, Venerable Xian collected himself. He looked at the white-haired young man in front of him and said, Ning, you have won. Venerable Xian has not lost yet. Ningchen said calmly, you are the strongest person I have ever met. The lightning around Venerable Xian's body gradually disappeared. Exhaustion flashed across his face as he said, I am old. In this era, there is no place for us. Marquis Ning, give me the Pavilion Master's soul. I will leave and never come back. Ningchen heard him and went silent. After a while, he waved his hand and sent the heaven-mending Pavilion Master's soul over. He said calmly, I hope you will keep your promise. Xian Jie took the heaven-mending Pavilion Master's soul and cupped his hands. He did not stay any longer. His figure gradually faded and disappeared. Are we just going to let him leave like this? Hua Zhongdia walked forward and asked. This person's strength is unfathomable. It will be hard for us to keep him here. Ningchen said calmly, we should not force such a powerful person into a desperate situation. Perhaps the result today is the best. Hua Zhongdia nodded and did not say anything else. Her figure disappeared and flew towards the battlefield below. The heaven-mending Pavilion Master died in battle and Venerable Xian left. The heaven-mending Pavilion army immediately fell into chaos. Without a leader, they were forced to retreat. The heaven-mending pavilion's defeat was inevitable. The immortal sect that had dominated the southeastern region for countless years had finally reached its end. The fierce battle lasted for 1 day and 1 night. The flames of war burned every corner of the heaven-mending pavilion. Countless halls collapsed and turned into ruins. When the first rays of the sun shone on the world again, the battle finally stopped. Around the heaven-mending pavilion, there were broken walls everywhere. It no longer had its former glory. In front of the destroyed heaven-mending palace, Ningchen walked forward. Looking at the ruins of the palace, his eyes flashed with emotions. Finally, the battle had reached this place. Although the road ahead was still long, they had finally taken the most important step. Ningchen raised his hand and the earth rumbled. Stone pillars rose from the ground and supported the broken palace. The palace was rebuilt. Ningchen walked forward and walked to the top of the palace. Behind him, dozens of Ning soldiers looked at this scene with admiration in their eyes. They really did it. Especially the 100 great sinners who had followed Ningchen from the God realm. They could not hide the excitement in their hearts. Dozens of years ago, when they first came to Wuyu Heaven, they did not even dare to imagine that they would have such a day. In the southeastern region, and even the entire Wuyu Heaven, the news of the heaven-mending pavilion's defeat spread like wildfire. The world was shocked. 10 days later, in front of the rebuilt heaven-mending palace, the famous figures from the 100 great sects of the southeastern region came to pay homage to the new ruler of the southeastern region. In a short time, the 2 words, Marquis Ning, spread throughout the world. At the top of the palace, Ningchen stood quietly in front of the throne. Divine light lingered around his body like a celestial emperor overlooking all living things. Thousands of years of war had never stopped. Under the throne, more than 1 million corpses were left. In front of the throne, Ningchen quietly looked at the distant territory. His expression did not change at all. Soon, he would use this as a starting point and truly start the war. He wanted to save her. No one could stop him, not even the heavens. At the same time, in the other 7 directions of Wuyu Heaven, the 7 strongest sects all looked towards the southeast after hearing the news of the heaven-mending pavilion's defeat. The heaven-mending pavilion's defeat was beyond their expectations. In this world, there was actually a supreme expert who could overturn the situation. It seemed that they could no longer sit idly by. Tao Destroyer experts from the 7 great sects walked out and rushed towards the southeast. In front of the heaven-mending palace, Ningchen also felt the gazes from all sides, but he ignored them. He needed time. The war had just ended, and the chaos was still there. He needed time to completely quell the resistance of the southeastern region. Half a day later, in the heaven-mending palace, Ning Chen waved his hand to summon the green coffin and removed the seal on it. Immediately, the lid on the green coffin was blown away. A red-clothed woman rushed out and wanted to counterattack. Ning Chen reached out and directly grabbed the woman's throat. The demonic aura around him surged and restrained the woman's movements. "Speak, who are you?" Ning Chen said with a cold expression. Chapter 1498. Heaven-mending divine temple, under the rising sun, pillars pierced the sky. The open-air divine temple looked even more majestic. In the divine temple, a white-haired figure in plain clothes stood quietly, his hand holding the throat of a red-robed woman. His murderous intent was not concealed at all. Outside the divine temple, Luo Xingchen, Mu Qianshang and the others were shocked when they saw this scene. What was Ji Ming doing? Besides Xiazi, Luo Fei came forward and advised, "Ji Ming, don't be rash." Inside the divine temple, demonic aura surged. Ning Chen looked at the woman in front and said lightly, "Speak, who are you?" The red-robed woman did not answer, like a living dead, not saying a word. At this time, in front of the divine temple, a blood-haired demonic butterfly walked over, passing by everyone, step by step into the divine temple. Hua Zhongdie entered the hall and said calmly, "Let me." With that, Hua Zhongdie reached out and demonic aura surged, engulfing the red-robed woman. The soul-searching technique appeared again, shocking the world. The entire hall began to shake, even the space was distorted. The red-robed woman's body trembled, her empty eyes showing pain. Hua Zhongdie did not show any mercy, using the soul-searching technique to search the red-robed woman's memories. On the side, Ning Chen waited quietly, light flashing in his eyes. This red-robed woman's appearance and aura were very similar to the ghost woman. It was really strange. Including the woman in the Immortal Corpse Patrol, he had already seen 2 women like the ghost woman. If he still could not see the abnormality, then he would be a fool. He did not believe in afterlife, but the ghost woman's situation, other than reincarnation, he could not find any other explanation. After a long time, Hua Zhongdie stopped, her eyes focused. "I only saw some memories, but this woman is indeed the ghost woman of the underworld." Hearing this, Ning Chen's eyes narrowed, as expected. "This woman is already dead." Hua Zhongdie said calmly, "The remaining consciousness is just a reflection of her life. How are you going to deal with it?" "When I find the ghost woman, I will ask her personally." With that, Ning Chen waved his hand. A green coffin appeared, sealing the red-robed woman inside. Suddenly, the clouds in the 9 heavens changed, thunder rumbled in all directions. Above the 9 heavens, figures appeared, their powerful aura startling the gods of the 9 heavens. Inside the temple, Ning Chen turned his head and looked at the horizon. His eyes narrowed slightly. It was finally here. Outside the temple, Luo Xingchen and the others also felt the terrifying aura in the sky, and their expressions turned cold. They came rather quickly. Above the 9 heavens, the 7 Dao destroyers arrived together. Their powerful auras shocked the million-strong army below. "Marquis Ning, come out and meet me." A white-robed man among the 7 Dao exterminators said with a cold expression. Inside the temple, Butterfly in the Flower looked at the 7 Path destroyers in the sky. She clenched her fists and demonic qi gushed out. "Senior sister, don't be rash." Ning Chen raised his hand to stop the woman beside him. He smiled and said, "There are guests here. As the host, I can't be rude." As soon as Ning Chen finished speaking, phoenix flames spread out behind him. Huge phoenix wings spread out and soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, Ning Chen's figure appeared above the 9 heavens. He withdrew his phoenix flames and returned to normal. On the other side, the 7 Dao exterminators stared at Marquis Ning, whose name had shaken the world. This Marquis Ning was not simple. "Honored guests, please forgive me for not going out to welcome you." Ning Chen looked at the 7 emissaries in front of him and said with a smile, "Are you the one who destroyed Butian Pavilion?" Among the 7 emissaries, a purple-robed woman spoke with a cold expression. Ning Chen did not deny it and replied. The purple-robed woman frowned slightly and took a step forward. The Dao Destroyer aura circulated and suppressed the former. Under the suppression of the Tao Destroyer law, Ning Chen was indifferent. His sword intent rose and directly broke through the Tao Destroyer law. The purple-robed woman's expression changed. She had to take half a step back to avoid the sharp edge. When the other 6 Tao Destroyers saw this, their expressions sank. What a powerful sword intent! Let me try. At this time, a burly man in a green robe walked out from the side. With a deep shout, his figure flashed past and punched out. The earth-shattering punch was like a raging wave. It was as if the sky was collapsing. It was merciless. In front of him, Ning Chen did not dodge. He punched out and blocked the attack head-on. Everyone watched as the two forces collided. Suddenly, the sky changed color, and a violent pressure spread out. A huge force came, and the green-robed man took half a step back. His right arm was numb. In a battle of strength, Heavenly Lord Gu Meng, who was forged from divine power, was at a disadvantage. Heavenly Lord Gu Meng was defeated. The Tao Destroyer Heavenly Lords present were even more shocked. In a battle of strength, Gu Meng was defeated. Let me do it. At this moment, the young Heavenly Lord in white moved. Black waters surged around his body. It was bone-chilling. Ning Chen smiled and moved. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the white-robed man. He condensed qi with his finger, and the wind and snow shocked the sky. The young Heavenly Lord in white's expression changed slightly. The black water around him quickly froze, and a moment later, it shattered. As the sword finger closed in, a powerful force erupted. The white-robed Heavenly Lord took a few steps back, and the aura around him shook violently. In 3 moves, all 3 Heavenly Lords were defeated. The shocking battle record shocked everyone. Below, the million-strong Ning family army was excited. Ho's strength was truly invincible. In the void, the 7 Tao Destroyer Heavenly Lords looked at each other. Without hesitation, they released their aura to suppress Ho. The corner of Ning Chen's mouth curved slightly. He took a step forward, and a black and white Tai Chi diagram appeared in the void. In the sword realm, black and white sword chi appeared, blocking the pressure of the 7 Tao Destroyer Heavenly Lords. It was a shocking scene. The 7 Tao Destroyer Heavenly Lords joined forces to suppress the knowing destiny state. In the battle, the black and white sword light floated up and down. The aura of the 7 Heavenly Lords was completely blocked, and they could not shake the knowing destiny state at all. Compared to Butian Pavilion Master and Lord Xian, you are still weaker. Ning Chen said calmly. The aura around him shook, and black and white sword chi spread out, pushing the 7 Heavenly Lords away. The sword chi rushed out, and the 7 Tao Destroyer Heavenly Lords were all shocked. They came to establish their prestige, but now they were disgraced. The 7 Tao Destroyer Heavenly Lords' expressions changed again and again. They did not expect Marquis Ning's strength to be so terrifying. It's so lively. It seems that we are not too late. At this moment, a familiar voice sounded in the sky and spread throughout the world. Below, Luo Xingchen, Xia Zi, and the others heard it. They looked at the sky with strange expressions. They are here. Everyone looked at the sky. A huge black cavity cracked open, and figures walked out of it. Each of them had the aura of the heaven realm, which shocked everyone. Behind them, demonic qi surged, and a powerful being stood in the demonic aura. The terrifying demonic aura suppressed everyone present. In the void, Ning Chen felt it. His expression froze for a moment, but he came to his senses after a while. He bowed respectfully and said, "Welcome, Master." The Heavenly Lords of the mortal world separated. Behind them, Xian Juyo walked out. The powerful demonic aura surged, as if a part of the world was pressing down, shocking the entire merciless heaven. For a moment, the strongest forces in the 8 directions of voidless heaven all turned their gazes to the southeast, their faces full of shock. What a powerful demonic aura! Is this merciless heaven? Above the sky, Xian Juyo looked down. He walked down step by step, and his demonic aura caused the world to shake. Below, the 7 Tao Destroyer Heavenly Lords felt fear in their hearts, and they looked shocked. Behind Xian Juyo, the Heavenly Lords from the mortal world descended from the sky. Their powerful auras were far stronger than 1,000 years ago. Ji Ming, How have you been? Among the crowd, Prince Qi, Lin Yuzhen, said with a smile. She was dressed in men's clothing and looked valiant. Prince Qi's demeanor is even more magnificent than before. Ningchen said with a smile. Master. At this moment, a delicate figure flew out from behind the crowd and threw herself at Ningchen. Ningchen caught the girl and said with a smile, Calm down. You're a big girl now. Iner giggled and said, I miss you, master. Chapter 1499. In the sky above the heaven-mending divine palace, good friends from the human world gathered together. This valiant lineup made even the emissaries of the 7 great sects feel fear. The overlords in the human world had all reached the heaven state. The most powerful one, Fiend Lord Juyo, had even reached the Tao destruction realm. His powerful demonic energy surged and shocked the world. Seeing that his friends from the human world had arrived, Ningchen was no longer in the mood to deal with the messengers of the 7 sections. He looked at the 7 people and said indifferently, Everyone, I still have something to do, so I won't see you off. I'll definitely pay a visit to your sects in a few days. Seeing that the situation was unfavorable, the messengers of the 7 religious sects did not dare to stay any longer and retreated one after another. After the 7 of them left, Ningchen retracted his gaze and looked at the human powerhouses in front of him. He smiled and said, Welcome to Wuyu Heaven. In the sky, Qing Ning, the Dawn Moon Tower Master, and the others looked down at the unfamiliar and vast world below with smiles on their faces. Everyone descended from the sky. Ningchen personally received the cultivators of the human world. Although he was grateful, he did not say much. They had once fought side by side, and now they were reunited. This was fate and even more so love. Little mistress. Iner saw a man not far away and immediately pounced over, calling out happily. A man patted Ina's head and said softly, Have you been good these days? I'm very obedient, Iner replied sweetly. A man smiled, and her mood improved a lot. Not far away, Hua Zhongdie, who was wearing a blue dress, looked at the crowd and did not step forward. When Iner saw the demonic butterfly not far away, she was a little afraid and did not dare to get too close. Qing Ning walked over. After greeting a man, she headed straight for the butterfly in the flower. Miss Dai, it's been hard on you these days. Qing Ning looked at the lady before her and said softly, It's something I should do. Butterfly in the flower said calmly. In front of the heaven-mending divine temple, everyone exchanged greetings. Mu Qian Shang, Luo Fei, and the others were in a good mood when they saw their good friends from the human realm arrive. Ningchen walked up to Xian Jiuyo and said respectfully, Master. Well done. Xian Jiuyo said calmly within the surging demonic qi. Thank you for your praise, Master. Ningchen replied, Disciple is extremely grateful that Master could come. The primordial demon realm and the human realm are still peaceful for now. Let me help you on your last journey, Xian Jiuyo said. Hearing this, Ningchen revealed a strange expression and said, What do you mean, Master? Xian Jiuyo looked at the sky and said, I have a feeling that my destiny is coming. I can't stay in this world for long. Tianming. Ningchen's body shook and he said, Did Master sense something? The reincarnation of the heavenly Tao has its own destiny. I have experienced too many years. This time, am I really leaving? Xian Jiuyo said calmly. Master has attained the Tao extermination realm and his lifespan has increased greatly. Why is this still happening? Ningchen's expression darkened as he asked in confusion. It's not lifespan. Xian Jiuyo looked into the distance and said, Humans have the 3 calamities and 5 tribulations. Gods have the 5 decays. Demons are the same. I have lived for far too long. My destiny is coming. Can't we avoid it? Ningchen asked in a low voice. There's no need. Xian Jiuyo's tone was calm as he said, My era has long passed. You are the only thing that Master cares about in this world. Now that I've seen you grow to this extent, Master can be at ease. When Ningchen heard this, his heart ached slightly. However, he did not know how to persuade him to stay. His family had all left. He had no more attachments in this world. His martial arts had also reached the peak. Perhaps one day he would make the same choice. Before the destiny, he was not willing to avoid it anymore. Master, there might be a sixth realm above the Tao extermination realm. Martial arts have no end. Master, don't you want to see what the end of martial arts is like? Ning Chen was still unwilling to give up. In the end, he tried to persuade Xian Jiuyo. Xian Jiuyo said softly, so what if he has cultivated to the sixth realm? The Nether King of the Seven Ultimate Heaven is truly invincible in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. You have fought with him before. Did you feel any reluctance to leave the world from his palm? Ning Chen was silent. He had no words to say. It's lonely at the top. Gods have nothing but loneliness. Xian Jiuyo looked at the distant horizon and said, with the Nether King's power, destroying the world is a piece of cake. Why does he have to leave hope for humanity again and again? Perhaps, in his heart, he hopes that you can defeat him. Xian Jiuyo retracted his gaze and looked at the disciple in front of him. He said softly, Master's destiny still has some time. Before that, Master will help you flatten the entire desireless heaven. Their conversation was restricted by the laws of space. There was no third person who could hear them. In front of the heaven-repairing divine palace, the experts from the human world exchanged greetings and returned to their positions. Around the heaven-repairing divine palace, large halls rose from the ground. They were majestic and majestic. Half a day later, behind the heaven-repairing divine palace, Xian Jiuyo walked into a heavily sealed divine palace and went into seclusion again. Ning Chen looked at Xian Jiuyo in seclusion with sadness in his eyes. Master. At this moment, shouted loudly from behind, trying to scare him. Ning Chen came back to his senses. He looked at the girl in front of him and collected his emotions. He smiled and said, What's wrong? Is something the matter? Didn't you say you were going to visit the 7 great sects? Did you forget? Pouted and said, I didn't forget. Ning Chen said softly, I'll go now. I want to go too. Volunteered. Ning Chen smiled and said, I heard from your sister Qing Ning that you have completely mastered the Phoenix origin and heavenly speech origin. Is that true? It's true. Raised her head and said proudly. Ning Chen nodded and smiled. Then let's go together. Ning's eyes curved when she heard that. Her little face was smiling like a blooming flower. Before leaving, Ning Chen looked at the sealed divine palace behind him again. His expression was slightly gloomy as he turned and left. He hoped that this day would come later. In the hall behind him, Xian Jiuyo opened his eyes and looked at the disciple who was leaving. He sighed softly in his heart. Idiot. After 1,000 years of cultivation, he still couldn't get over it? 10 days later, in the southern part of desireless heaven, Nanming Divine Dynasty. Ning Chen walked over with a man and entered the territory of the dynasty. The Divine Dynasty's imperial palace was a magnificent building that stretched for thousands of miles. The divine palaces were connected to each other. They had endured countless years and were eternal. Great Emperor Nanming, the current ruler of the Nanming Divine Dynasty, stood quietly in front of the throne. He felt a powerful aura approaching from afar and his expression turned serious. They're here. In the majestic divine palace, officials of the Divine Dynasty stood quietly. Each of them was above the heavenly venerable level and had an unusually powerful aura. Ning Chen walked over with in the imperial city of the Divine Dynasty. He looked no different from an ordinary person. In the imperial city, pedestrians came and went. But in the dark, countless eyes were watching the two of them and were unusually alert. They knew very well that this seemingly ordinary white-haired man was Marquis, whose name shook desireless heaven. He was famous for being cold-blooded and ruthless. If he were to be ruthless, the entire Nanming Divine City would not be enough for him to kill. Among the people who were secretly watching, there was no lack of Heaven Realm and even Tao Annihilation Realm experts. However, before Ning Chen made a move, no one dared to make a move. Half a day later, Ning Chen walked through the Divine City and walked into the Imperial Palace of the Divine Dynasty. In the Imperial Palace of the Divine Dynasty, which was comparable to the immortal world. Even if there were 1,000,000 divine generals, no one dared to stop the two of them. In the Nanming Divine Palace, Great Emperor Nanming looked at the white-haired man in front of him and narrowed his eyes slightly. Was this the legendary Marquis Ning? His reputation was indeed well-deserved. Everyone watched as Ning Chen walked into the Divine Palace with Ying. He looked at Great Emperor Nanming and said calmly, "I'm here." Chapter 1500. In the Nanming Divine Palace, Ning Chen brought Yin to the main hall. Everyone looked at them, and no one dared to be disrespectful. In front of the throne, Great Emperor Nanming looked at the white-haired man in front of him. His majestic eyes flashed with surprise as he said, "Marquis Ning, we are honored by your presence. Please forgive us for not going out to meet you." In the main hall, Ning Chen looked at the Lord of Nanming Divine Dynasty and said calmly, "According to the agreement, I am here to visit you." The two looked at each other, and a powerful divine aura spread out, colliding with each other silently. On both sides of the main hall, the officials of the Divine Dynasty were shocked and took a few steps back. It was a shocking scene. In the main hall, the airflow violently collided, and countless formation runes were instantly destroyed. In just a few breaths, the officials in the hall felt like they were in hell, unable to withstand the terrifying pressure. After 10 breaths, Ning Chen waved his hand and dispersed the aftershock. He smiled and said, "Divine Master, your cultivation is really unfathomable." Marquis Ning's ability is also shocking. In front of the throne, Great Emperor Nanming said lightly, "Men, prepare a seat." In the main hall, 2 divine generals received the order and brought a Qilin chair, placing it in front of the officials. "Thank you." Ning Chen thanked them and did not stand on ceremony. He walked to the Qilin chair and sat down. Yin followed and stood behind him obediently. In the main hall, Great Emperor Nanming looked at the white-haired man below and said, "In less than 60 years, Marquis Ning has conquered the entire Southeast territory. You are indeed a young hero." "Divine Master, you are too kind." Ning Chen smiled and said, "Divine Master, you have ruled the southern region for thousands of years. No one has dared to offend you. That is why you are respected." "Marquis Ning dares too," Great Emperor Nanming said lightly. On the Qilin chair, Ning Chen narrowed his eyes and said, "Divine Master, you must be joking." Great Emperor Nanming smiled and did not say much on this topic. He looked at the girl behind Marquis Ning and asked casually, "This girl is?" "Yin, my disciple." Ning Chen smiled and said, "Greet the Divine Master." "Greetings, Divine Master." Yin bowed respectfully. Marquis Ning's disciple. Great Emperor Nanming looked at the girl in front of him seriously. After he observed her, his eyes flashed with surprise. There was a faint divine light. "Father." Right at this moment, a young man in a python robe walked out from within the hall and said respectfully, "Son wishes to seek guidance from Marquis Ning." "Nan Lin, don't be rude." Great Emperor Nanming's expression turned cold. "Who is Marquis Ning? Why would he fight with a junior like you?" On the Qilin throne, Ning Chen revealed a smile and said, "Royal Lord, you don't need to mind. Southern Scale Crown Prince, if you win against my disciple, I can give you a few pointers." The Crown Prince of Nan Lin had heard about it. He looked at the young girl behind Marquis Ning and his handsome face revealed a strange expression. "Go and ask the Crown Prince for advice," said Ning Chen with a smile. "Yes." Yin nodded. She walked to the center of the hall and said, "Your Highness, please." The Crown Prince of Nan Lin frowned, but he still walked in front of the ministers and said, "Please." The two confronted each other. Divine might filled the air, and a great battle was about to break out. A moment later, the two of them moved at the same time. Within 100 feet, they collided with each other. Their palms were powerful, and each of their moves was fierce. Every move they made was extraordinary. After a short confrontation, everyone knew who the opponent was. The Crown Prince of Nan Lin shouted. Blue flames rose around him, and the entire sky began to distort. Nan Ming Primordial Fire. Seeing this, Ning Chen's eyes flashed. He finally saw it. Nanming Dynasty's art of guarding. The Nanming primordial fire appeared, and its divine might shook the heavens and the earth. On the opposite side, felt the terror of the flames in front of her. Her expression turned serious. With a shout, the phoenix fire rose around her. The phoenix divine fire and the Nanming primordial fire, the two most powerful divine flames in the world, appeared at the same time. Suddenly, the void in the Nanming palace shook. Even the laws of heaven and earth seemed to be burning. A moment later, the two flames collided. The airflow shook, burning the sky and boiling the sea. On the throne and Qilin throne, Ningchen and Great Emperor Nanming attacked at the same time. Divine might filled the air, blocking the aftermath of the battle. The ministers of the dynasty were shocked. They knew the crown prince's cultivation very well. He was not far from the path-extinguishing realm. This disciple of Marquis was able to fight evenly with the crown prince, whom they were most proud of. It was truly shocking. In the turbulent waves of fire, the two figures appeared. Their cultivation techniques were raised again, and their divine might was shocking. Ningchen looked at the Nanming primordial fire around the crown prince of Nanlin. The Nanming primordial fire was not inferior to the phoenix divine fire. It seemed that if they wanted to attack the southern region, they had to first find a way to deal with the threat of the Nanming primordial fire. Lightning conduit. In the battle, raised her hand. First, she used the heaven speaker technique. Suddenly, the sky above Nanming Divine City was filled with wind and thunder, covering the divine sun. In the palace, thousands of lightning bolts gathered. With the support of the phoenix fire, the lightning bolts and fire blasted toward the crown prince of Nanlin. The crown prince of Nanlin's expression changed slightly. He used the Nanming primordial fire in his hands and turned it into a huge astrolabe. His divine might rose rapidly and he blocked the attack. That's enough. At this time, on the Qilin throne, Ningchen raised his hand and dispersed the lightning and phoenix fire, stopping the battle. Hearing this, stopped fighting. She cupped her fists and bowed. Then, she turned around and walked back. In the battle, the crown prince of Nanlin retracted his aura and bowed back. He then walked back to the officials thoughtfully. After the battle ended, Ningchen saw what he wanted to see. He stood up and looked at Great Emperor Nanming in the palace. He smiled and said, "Emperor Lord, I suddenly remembered that I have something to do. I won't stay any longer. Goodbye." Marquis Ning, take care. On the throne, Great Emperor Nanming did not ask him to stay. He stood up and said calmly, "See you again." Ningchen said before turning around and leaving. Caught up with him and quickly followed after him. In front of the officials, the crown prince of Nanlin looked at the woman behind Marquis Ning. "Nanlin." In front of the throne, Great Emperor Nanming said calmly, "You lost just now." The crown prince of Nanlin came back to his senses and said respectfully, "I know my mistake. This Marquis Ning will be a great enemy of the Nanming Divine Dynasty in the future." Great Emperor Nanming looked at the two figures and said calmly, "If we fight head-on, even I don't have full confidence that I can stop him." Below, the officials' faces darkened when they heard this. "Father, must the Nanming Divine Dynasty be Marquis Ning's enemy?" The Crown Prince of Nanlin said unwillingly, "Marquis Ning has just risen. The Nanming Divine Dynasty can show goodwill. Perhaps we can be on good terms with him." Hearing this, Great Emperor Nanming frowned and said, "Show goodwill? Marriage alliance." The Crown Prince of Nanlin said seriously. In the Nanming Divine City, Ningchen brought out of the palace and headed east. "Master, why did you stop me just now? I was about to win," said unhappily. "It's not appropriate to hit their crown prince in their territory. It's better to be kind," Ningchen said with a smile. Pursed her lips and said, "I'd be a fool to believe you. Are you planning something again? How do you think the Nanming Divine Dynasty will deal with our relationship?" Ningchen asked. "The Nanming Divine Dynasty shares a border with our territory. Friction is inevitable. Of course, whoever has the bigger fist will have the final say," said seriously. "That's right." Ningchen smiled and said, "How can we allow others to sleep beside us? However, everyone knows that, but not everyone has the courage to do so. After saying that, Ningchen looked back at the majestic palace behind him and said with a smile, "Do you think the Nanming divine dynasty will do something as stupid as asking a tiger for its skin?" Chapter 1501. Not long after Ningchen brought back to the heaven-repairing temple, the messenger from the Nanming God dynasty arrived. The messenger brought gifts and stated the purpose of his visit: a marriage alliance. Ningchen looked at the gifts that filled the temple and said, "Someone wants to marry you." "That's all." Pouted and said, "I told the Nanming God dynasty not to do anything stupid. I didn't expect the Nanming God Emperor to make such a stupid decision," Ningchen said with a smile. "Master, you can't use my marriage," said with a vigilant look. "Of course." Ningchen smiled and said, "Let's wait and see what the Nanming God dynasty does." A few days later, the news of the marriage alliance between the Nanming God dynasty and the Ning family spread. The Nanming God dynasty wanted to make it happen. The Ning family didn't admit or deny the rumors, as if they acquiesced to the rumors. The Ning family's acquiescence caused more and more rumors to spread. Almost everyone in the southeast and south border believed that the Ning family and the Nanming God dynasty were going to have a marriage alliance. In the heaven-repairing temple, two people were playing chess with black and white pieces. "Jiming Marquis, what are you planning?" The host of the Dawn Moon brothel placed a white piece and said calmly, "With the Ning family's current strength, we can fight the Nanming God dynasty head-on. Why are we doing such useless things?" The Ning family's goal has never been the Nanming God dynasty. Ningchen placed a black piece and smiled. "You should know why I'm doing this. For one person, you didn't hesitate to destroy the world. Jiming Marquis, you are the most ruthless person." The host of the Dawn Moon brothel placed another piece and sighed. "If people don't offend me, I won't offend them." Ningchen placed a black piece and blocked all the exits of the white piece. He said calmly, "If people offend me, I'll pay them back 100 times. Yama locked the soul and the dragon died. The winner of this game of chess was about to be decided. Hong Yuan walked over with tea and served it to the two of them. The tea was light. The desireless heaven was poor, and the quality of the tea was much worse than in the mortal world. Everyone says that immortals are good, but they don't know that the mortal world is the most carefree. The Dawn Moon brothel master took a sip of tea and sighed. "Jiming Marquis, don't do everything you can. It's not good for your cultivation. Thank you for your reminder. I understand." Ningchen finished the tea in his cup in one gulp, stood up and said, "We have guests." The waning moon brothel mistress looked at the horizon outside the palace. Light flickered in her eyes. "Why are there always so many stupid people? Asking a tiger for its skin, aren't you afraid of losing your life?" Great Emperor Nanming said solemnly, "The Ning clan's strength was not weaker than the Southern Scale God dynasty 10 years ago. 10 years later, even if the Ning clan was more unified, they were not much stronger than the Southern Scale God dynasty. There was not much meaning in delaying it for 10 years. Your Highness." At this moment, a divine general walked into the palace and said in a deep voice, "The scouts sent news. A few days ago, Marquis Ning went to Tai Tsang Impasse and returned with heavy injuries." "What did you say?" In front of the throne, Great Emperor Nanming was shocked. He said, "Marquis Ning went to Tai Tsang Impasse. Do you know the reason?" It is said that Marquis Ning's disciple accidentally entered Tai Tsang Impasse. When Marquis Ning returned to the Ning clan, Lady was also heavily injured, the divine general said respectfully. When Great Emperor Nanming heard this, his expression changed again. Marquis Ning was heavily injured. "Father." Below the palace, the Southern Scale Crown Prince said seriously, "I want to go to the Ning clan and propose marriage to Marquis Ning again." In front of the throne, Great Emperor Nanming regained his senses and looked at his son. He said in a deep voice, "Lin, didn't you hear the crux of the matter?" The Southern Scale Crown Prince frowned and said, "What do you mean, father?" "Marquis Ning is heavily injured." Great Emperor Nanming said in a deep voice, "As long as the Ning clan loses Marquis Ning, they will become a pile of loose sand. At that time, the entire southeastern domain will be without a leader. As long as the Southern Scale God dynasty grabs this opportunity, we will become the #1 inheritance in desireless heaven that spans 2 domains. Father, you want to attack the Ning clan? The Southern Scale Crown Prince said in shock. Great Emperor Nanming said coldly, before confirming the severity of Marquis Ning's injuries, we can't act rashly. Lin, bring the betrothal gifts and propose marriage. Be tough and see Marquis Ning's attitude. He has dragged it out for so many years. I want to see how he will deal with it this time. The Southern Scale Crown Prince said respectfully. Great Emperor Nanming waved his hand. In the void, blue flames rose. A divine furnace descended from the sky and flew towards the Southern Scale Crown Prince. Take the divinely fire furnace. With your cultivation, it is enough to suppress an ordinary Tao extinguisher. I have added 3 talismans to the furnace. If it explodes at full power, it is equivalent to me attacking 3 times. Remember, if Marquis Ning's injuries are really that serious, immediately find a chance to kill him, Great Emperor Nanming said in a deep voice. The Southern Scale Crown Prince took the divine furnace. His expression changed, but he nodded in the end. 10 days later, in front of the heaven-mending divine palace, the Southern Scale God dynasty's marriage proposal team arrived. In front of the heaven-mending divine palace, the red-clothed knowing destiny stood quietly and personally welcomed the Southern Scale Crown Prince. Almost at the same time, in front of the Southern Scale Great Palace, a white-haired figure in plain clothes appeared out of thin air. Behind him, 2 devils followed. 10 years. Her had left for 10 years. She even went to the Tai Tsong impasse. It wasn't to avoid the marriage alliance, but to search for something. Water was needed to extinguish a fire. The Ning clan had searched for this water for 10 years. In the Southern Scale Great Palace, when Great Emperor Nanming saw the 3 people in front of him, his expression changed. Oh no! Chapter 1502. In the South Ming Divine Hall, Devil Qi filled the sky. Knowing Destiny, Demonic Butterfly, and Xia Zi appeared at the same time. Great Emperor Nanming was shocked when he saw the 3 of them. As soon as Ningchen appeared, he used a divine restriction to seal the entire space. The sudden killing intent made Great Emperor Nanming's expression darken. He looked at the white-haired man in front of him and asked, Marquis Ning, what is the meaning of this? Your Majesty, let's not beat around the bush. Please show me your moves. Ningchen spoke calmly. Demonic qi surged from his body like raging waves, like giant waves, shocking everyone's hearts. Demonic Butterfly and Xia Zi surged out of their bodies at the same time. They didn't hold back at all. As soon as they finished speaking, the 3 of them moved. Their swords and sabers shone brightly. Great Emperor Nanming's expression darkened. His divine essence surged, and golden light shone brightly. With a loud boom, the saber, sword, and palm collided. Powerful air currents surged out violently. After a moment of stalemate, Hua Zhongdia and Xia Zi changed their moves at the same time. Their swords and sabers were like lightning. Great Emperor Nanming's eyes turned cold. He flipped his palm and divine essence surged out. The saber, sword, and palm collided again. Ning Chen's palm landed on the immortal sword. The immortal sword was as heavy as a mountain, and it penetrated Great Emperor Nanming's divine essence barrier inch by inch. The 3 demons attacked fiercely, and Great Emperor Nanming was at a disadvantage. How dare you! Great Emperor Nanming's face was filled with anger. He roared, and purple air currents exploded around him. With the dynasty's providence, Great Emperor Nanming's aura immediately changed. His divine aura rose several times. The powerful shockwave caused the 3 devils to be knocked back several steps and flew out of the main hall. The Great Emperor Nanming rushed out and slammed his palm toward the woman in front of him. Hua Zhongdia's wings appeared behind her back. She gathered all her energy and blocked the attack. Divine essence clashed, and Hua Zhongdia's demonic qi shook. Her mouth turned red. Behind her, Xia Zi stepped forward. He held his sword with both hands and slashed down with doomsday madness. The violent sword pressure slashed apart the sky full of divine essence and crashed into great Emperor Nanming's dynasty's providence. The shockwave from the collision caused blood to splatter from Xia Zi's hands, and the webbing between his thumb and forefinger split open. At the same time, Great Emperor Nanming's aura started to become unstable after being attacked by the two demons in a row. At this moment, Ning Chen, who was standing behind Hua Zhongdia and Xia Zi, moved. A wooden box appeared in his hand, emitting a sinister aura that made people shudder. Soon after, the wooden box opened and sand filled the air, obscuring the battlefield. The immemorial filthy soil reappeared. It was an item that could restrain fate. It had been seized by the knowing Destiny Realm cultivators, and it once again had amazing power. Suddenly, the divine dynasty's providence around Great Emperor Nanming was corroded by the chaos filthy soil. It shook violently and showed signs of collapsing. At the same time, Ning Chen's immortal sword pierced through Emperor Nanming's chest with unparalleled sharpness. Ugh! Great Emperor Nanming let out a muffled groan as the devilish qi entered his body, forcing him to retreat several steps. Great Emperor Nanming didn't dare to delay the battle any longer. He grabbed the immortal sword with his hand and struck out with his palm, sending out divine flames. The blue divine flames roared and surged, and the terrifying temperature was enough to burn the sky and boil the sea. When the Nanming primordial fire appeared, its power was earth-shattering. It was many times more powerful than the one used by the Prince of Nanlin. The divine dynasty's art of guarding the region changed the universe. Seeing this, Ning Chen stepped out of the battlefield. Surrounded by the three demons, Great Emperor Nanming's divine flames surged and burned away all the filthy aura. Ning Chen, Hua Zhongdia, and Xia Zi looked at the divine flames around Great Emperor Nanming. They looked at each other and flipped their palms at the same time. In an instant, the black profound Yin sunflower water appeared in their palms. It was the Yin water from the Tai Tsong Forbidden Land. Together with the devilish qi, it pressed down on Great Emperor Nanming. Nanming Li fire and profound Yin sunflower water were yin and yang. When the two forces clashed, the Nanming Li fire quickly dissipated. Great Emperor Nanming's expression changed drastically. Profound Yin sunflower water. How could this be? While he was distracted, the three demons moved at the same time. Their swords and sabers were like lightning, pressing down on him. The demonic swords and sabers slashed the heavens and killed gods. In an instant, Great Emperor Nanming's body was injured. With injuries on top of injuries, Great Emperor Nanming stumbled and spat out a mouthful of blood. Dance of the Butterflies, Qing Ping. An opportunity appeared. Hua Zhongdia stabilized her body and turned her swords. The sword qi broke through the air and slashed towards Great Emperor Nanming. On the other side, Xia Zi held the demonic sword with both hands. The 12 wings behind his back opened up, and he poured all his devilish qi into the sword. Dao Jianhan's demonic aura swept away all obstructions and once again closed in on Shaoqin. Great Emperor Nanming's expression changed slightly. He used the last of his divine essence to block the attacks. The divine essence demonic technique caused a violent shockwave to spread out. The three of them bled at the same time. Shadow of the remnant wind. Great Emperor Nanming retreated again, and a white figure flashed past. The immortal sword condensed thousands of sharp qi and mercilessly pressed down on him. As the killing intent approached, Great Emperor Nanming grabbed the immortal slaying sword and retreated again and again. The splattering blood stained the immortal sword. Great Emperor Nanming forcefully stopped himself from retreating, and he slapped out with his palm. As the palm landed on her body, her silk-clothed figure collapsed and disappeared. At the same time, Ning Chen's figure appeared behind Great Emperor Nanming. His sword pierced through Great Emperor Nanming's back like lightning. Ugh! The immortal sword that pierced through his body was dyed red. Great Emperor Nanming's body froze. He looked at the sword in his chest in disbelief, and his eyes gradually lost their luster. Ning Chen pulled out the immortal sword. The devilish qi around him surged and forcefully entered Great Emperor Nanming's body. Gradually, Great Emperor Nanming's eyes regained their luster. However, this time, there was a trace of devilish qi in his eyes. "Let's go." After doing what he needed to do, Ning Chen waved his sword and slashed open the void. He walked into it. Behind him, Hua Zhongdia and Xia Zi followed and walked into the void. After the three of them left, the divine restriction disappeared and everything returned to normal. Great Emperor Nanming walked back to his throne. Behind him, several consecrators rushed into the palace. When they saw the damaged palace, they were shocked. "Your Majesty!" one of the consecrators exclaimed. "You may leave." Great Emperor Nanming said calmly. "Yes, Your Majesty." One by one, the consecrators accepted the order and left respectfully. When the Nanming God dynasty was undergoing a drastic change, the Nanlin Crown Prince came to the Tian Mending Divine Palace to propose marriage. The two of them talked for a long time. Suddenly, the phoenix body coughed up blood, and his face flushed red. Seeing this, the Nanlin Crown Prince narrowed his eyes and hurried forward. "Marquis Ning, what happened to you?" "It's nothing." The phoenix body gently pushed the Nanlin Crown Prince away. His eyes flashed with vigilance. The Nanlin Crown Prince grabbed the person in front of him and used his divine essence to check his injuries. The phoenix body's expression changed, and anger appeared on his face. "So Marquis Ning is seriously injured." The Nanlin Crown Prince's eyes shone with a dazzling light. He grabbed the former's arm, and the leaf fire around him burned brightly. In the next moment, a sparkling divine furnace appeared above the Nanlin Crown Prince. Blue flames surged and suppressed him. "Your Highness, what is the meaning of this?" At this moment, the phoenix body spoke. He raised his hand and lifted the leaf fire divine furnace that descended from the sky. "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.